again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Jim Cornette Experience. Today, I make a donation to someone for doing a public service. I make a mistake trying to give somebody a chance, and I make an apology to AEW. All that and more today, and joining me, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you, the man that made me make a mistake, the great Brian Last, everybody.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again. I think we're going to have a good time today. A lot of people looking forward to hearing what you're going to have to say about this week's big wrestling shows, a big debut on a new network, and more of the same on the same network. Lots going on.
Well, there has been some good news, but none of that is it. But I'll tell you what, I'm surprised I'm still speaking to you, after what you put me through. That sounds like a country song. I'm surprised I'm still speaking to you after what you put me through, because you made me watch that rotten show. We're going to talk. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, defend yourself.
I'm not defending myself. We'll get there. Everything I do is in the name of the listeners. Let me just remind you of that. It's for them that I do what I do.
I don't know if there was a lot of popular demand for me to do what I did, but go ahead.
I don't want to say too much here because we're going to review it later, but often, whenever I talk about NXT or TNA, their fans jump on me like I just said Mid-South 84 sucks. They jump on me for every critique, and I have fun with it because, I like to have fun on here on the show. But to be very, very serious, TNA is a horrible wrestling show. And, again, I don't want to spoil the review, and I have not heard what you're going to say. I'm imagining in my head what you're going to say. But for all the fans, like, you got to give it a chance, or you watched it one week. No, it's the tone of the show. And by the way, it's not a TNA issue. It's an industry-wide issue where everything just feels like some weird derivative of WWE-style wrestling television.
A derivative. I like that description, and it's a very derisive derivative. But with that, I'm not even. Let's just say when we get to where we talk about TNA, you're going to hear what smaller groups would have heard in post-production meetings from Jim Cornette on, I don't mean smaller groups, I mean smaller groups than the millions of people we're talking to.
It was
right
the midgets, folks.
No, I'm not talking about small size. I mean, if I was somewhere that was doing a television production and we had a post-production meeting based on examining the fucking program, today on this program, you will hear what I would have said in that fucking meeting. And or potentially the flavor of the notes I used to send to people like Terry Taylor, my old friend in TNA wrestling. So we'll talk about that. But the good news, Brian, of the whole daggum week, we have a patriot out there, my new hero, a good old American Ford auto worker named TJ Sabula. Not to be confused with old Cat Sabulas from Mid-South Wrestling. And I don't know what descent the name Sabula is from. The picture of him looked like a average Caucasian fella from Michigan. But he is the one who made, maybe even worldwide, I know it was national news here, when our dear leader took his orange blabby ass through the Ford Motor Plant on one of his ceremonial walkthroughs where he's confused and doesn't know what he's looking at. And TJ Sabula is the guy who screamed, "You're a pedophile protector!" And people got it on video that Trump heard him and looked down, and apparently the lip readers and or eyewitnesses in the audience said he said "fuck you" to the guy twice and gave him the finger to go to old TJ. And this video went everywhere and blah, blah, blah. And of course, then his follow up is that before he was suspended from his job. But the follow up to that is the United Auto Workers are standing by his American right to free speech. And nobody better fire old TJ Sabula. And everybody's up in arms about it in the various camps, either pro or con, pro TJ or convicted offenders of various kinds. And now the bottom line is that TJ Sabula, when people started to GoFundMe for him, has made like $800,000 something dollars.
Holy shit.
Because they had two fundme's or two entities funding this thing. And the total of them was over $800,000. But I am proud to say also, and this actually made like the Michigan Automotive News, not a wrestling fucking site, but reporting on the goddamn poor auto worker that I was the top donor, along with one anonymous guy. But I guess Stace and I gave $5,000. Our name is on there.
It's funny, there were a few articles going around, and again, there were several from Michigan specifically, and a few of them had a image of you. One of them had like an image of you and an image of Donald Trump on the other side. One of them just had an image of a stack of money. Which I think is the funniest and the laziest of the options.
But I have heard from auto workers now say thank you for supporting our brother or whatever. But here's the thing is that yes, of course, and what he said, and oh my God, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but the press asked TJ Sabula for comment. And he said paraphrasing, sometimes fate puts you in a position and you have to rise up to meet the moment. And I did. And I wouldn't take it back, but I am worried about my jobs as they're making a big hoo-ha. But this was before the total of the GoFundMe. How long, even though they do a valuable service, how long would it take a Ford auto worker to earn $800,000?
Oh, I don't know. They say Henry Ford keeps all the money for himself. I'm not really sure how it works.
Well, you see, that's the point. Ford had egg on their face, not Henry himself, but them as an entity, because that's the thing. It got to him. And that's what everybody was saying. That remark got to him enough that the president supposedly of the United States gives the finger to and says, fuck you to a Ford auto worker, no matter what he said. They said Obama's been through the Ford plant, and people said some raw things at his direction also, and he didn't sell it because he was Obama instead of man baby. But it got to him, and that specific remark got to him. And so that's why we're saying, I'm just saying, if that got to him, then, all the stress that you can add to a senior citizen like that, not good at all for a person that old to be stressed. But the point being, Brian, the reason why when I got up and I saw that news, I said, I got a check for $5,000 waiting on this guy. And then everybody sent me the GoFundMe. Okay. What was it? A couple months ago, back before people were being gassed and shot in the streets and all that. So when the news was just that Trump was calling reporters piggies or fake or fraud or whatever the fuck, insulting the reporters, trying to make sense out of his drivel and call him to some of his account. I said I would pay $50,000 to the first reporter that on tape, on camera, in front of the public that could be replayed would just say, you know what? No, fuck you. You are the fake. You're the fraud. You're the pig. You're the con man, whatever the fuck you're calling us. Fuck you. I'm quit. Cover your own fucking self and just walk off from him, right? And you said that, well, $50,000 wouldn't make up for them losing their job or whatever. Now we know that whoever does that will be a multi-fucking millionaire. Probably have more money than you and I have ever dreamed of having. But and remember, people scoffed at me when I said that, and I was goddamn serious, and man, still am open to contributing. Now that I know I wouldn't be alone, I would still contribute heavily to the GoFundMe. But you were on the phone when I asked Stephen P. New if that's legal for me to offer that, technically.
I don't know if it would do as good. I think more people would support the average person, like the auto worker, than the news reporter who said something.
Well, but they would have to then quit and not just sit there and then be browbeaten by the fucking felch-faced piece of shit again.
What exactly happened? Because you were telling it, but I actually don't know what the update is. Did he lose his job or did he not? Because you said the union's protecting him.
No, that's the thing. They suspended him. And now the union put out a statement that they are supporting their union members' right to free speech and whatever, and blah blah blah. So that I don't think they can fire him at this point with the attention on it. But here's again, I wondered, does he want to go back? He's got $800,000.
Again, in 2026, $800,000 is not going to last you forever.
Well, goddamn, at the same point, if you're smart.
And it's going to be taxed, isn't it?
Oh, for heaven's sake, you like to take the piss out of everything. But the point is, even though it wasn't what I asked for, specifically, it wasn't as direct and it wasn't as face-to-face and it wasn't a confrontation that could be videotaped in a clear fashion, broadcast, and blah, blah, blah. I felt the spirit was there. And that's why I put my money where my mouth was, because if I'd give a reporter $50,000 to do it and quit, walk off the job face to face 10 feet away from him, certainly I could at least give the guy that yelled at him from as close as he could get $5,000. And that's what I did.
Would he have gotten more money from you if he yelled "fuck you" or "hey fatso" or just anything like that? Was more of a is there anything he could have done there that would have gotten more money out of you? Money bags.
No, because apparently, it's not like people don't yell something at this fat, obnoxious fuck everywhere he goes. But pedophile protector got to him enough. It got the response out of Trump. It got under his skin. That was worth $5,000 to me. Just vicariously living through TJ Sabula.
It would be funny if people just started mooning him. You haven't seen a good run of moons in a while. Just every time Trump walked by, people show.
I got news for you. As much as I might be in favor of that, I don't trust him to turn my back. So we might have to expose some other fucking part of the goddamn anatomy. But anyway, so that's that. But the point is, I don't just say shit to say shit. If I say something, I'm going to do something about it. And I've got an email. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. Well, what we talked about the other day going on in Minnesota, and this was a little levity from Michigan in the middle of all of that, but from Chris, I won't give his last name. People be knocking on his door. Dear Jim, thank you for addressing the horrific situation in Minnesota caused by ICE's brutality. The more people around the country and the world who know the truth, the better are our odds of stopping this. It's hard enough for adults to endure this, but I teach in a suburb south of Minneapolis, and I see much fear ICE is creating in our student body. These kids are suffering so terribly. Please don't stop addressing what ICE and Trump are doing. We need all the help that we can get to regain some sense of sanity in Minnesota. So, here's the thing. It was 7 or 8 years ago. When did I stop talking to Bruce Pritchard because he lied to me just for no apparent reason whatsoever? About 2017-ish.
2016, 2017.
Right?
Yeah.
You remember that period of time.
I think he lied to you because he's a liar.
Well, there was not a reason. We're not going to go down that road. But the point is, before that, right before that, I was still speaking to him, he said, "Why do you talk about politics on your show? You're going to divide the audience. You're going to run somebody. Basically, you're going to run somebody off." And as I talk about politics, like we talk about wrestling, we talk about rock and roll, we talk about comic books, and we talk about fucking goofy news stories, and we talk about all the goddamn other drivel that goes on in the world, because that's what I like to talk about. But you'll run people off, then I don't want them. But here's the thing. There are some people that want a mealy-mouthed podcast where nobody tells the truth because they either want a job still or have a job where they are not allowed to talk about. Don't you dare be saying anything like these things or whatever. Or do you want one of the shows where some of these, I guess these, what do they call them? The influencer nitwits, and then the right-wing pundits or whatever the fuck, where they just blurt shit out their ass, or the Alex Joneses, they just blurt lying bullshit out their ass anytime they want, just to killing puppies. I'm in favor of it, to stir people up so they get the clicks or listens, whether they mean it or not. I've always maintained, and apparently it's worked out, because people listen to our show and have for a long time and are now in bigger numbers, that I'm not we have fun talking about bullshit, but I'm not gonna bullshit anybody about the way I feel about shit, which is kind of part of the Jim Cornette experience. Would you concur with that, Brian, that this is kind of, when you know Jim Cornette, this is part of the experience?
Yeah, I guess I'd say that.
So, point being, that's why I talk about these things when I get pissed off about them, whether it's a guy's car landing on my fence or people being shot in the fucking face. When I get pissed off, I talk about shit, and when it's wrestling, I critique shit, and when it's other stuff, I give my opinion on shit. But for the people out there, the cult of Cornette, because if you look at just any of these, the tweets or any of the videos or any of the comments on YouTube or the emails we get, whatever the fuck, it's just like everything else today. It's like half the people, everybody listens to or looks at the same thing. And then half the people say, "Oh God, thank you for saying this. I love you. I wish somebody else would have said this and I can say that," and blah, blah, blah. And the other people are going, "You motherfucker, I like to choke you, stupid imbecile," about the same thing. But that doesn't change the way that I feel about it, because I do not change my opinions of what is right and wrong based on what makes most people happy or what makes most people listen or what makes most people click. Sorry, I'm not. I don't know that this is hyperbolic to say I'm not a traditional internet personality. Brian, would you say that's a fair statement?
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
Okay, so for those of you who love me and I'm a genius and in wrestling and we're on the right side of history, I love you too. For those of you who don't, they fall into a couple of categories, the people who don't love me. The ones that I have eviscerated verbally their favorite goofy pretend cartoon wrestlers for years, and oh God, we hate him. He's the most awful person in the world. I hope you muster the same indignation that you got when I said that so-and-so ought to be boiled in oil and have his fat sold for soap. I hope your heads are on fire just as much when people are being shot in the face on the street and babies are being tear gassed. That's what I say to that segment that don't like me. And for the people who say, well, We love Jim's wrestling genius. Oh my God, he can tell you what Jim Londos had for lunch on June 7th, 1937. And this guy's just brilliant at his performances, and we've always been a fan of his, but politics, he's a complete imbecile. Because they ain't your politics, pal. That's like saying you're admitting that, well, this guy over here is brilliant and articulate and knows all this shit, but I want to get my political advice from a complete fucking moron. So whether people like it or not, I'm going to not change my opinion of right or wrong just to make anybody happy on the internet. If you are at the segment of our population that legitimately believes that just because people do not have the proper permit to preside somewhere, that they should have the shit kicked out of them, drugged down the street, shot at, tear gassed, beat up, and thrown out of the goddamn country from their job at Target or the family Mexican restaurant, there's something wrong with you. And you're part of the reason why that American society has been poisoned. And if you take it further, and you take that hatred of people that you have never met as just as a race as a whole that exist here in the country, that it is so pertinent to our national security that you believe the drivel that there's tens of millions of these people that are murderers and rapists and cannibals and sex pests, that they all need to be forcefully removed, that you even, if you're in fucking Wyoming or South Florida or the corner of Nevada, and you are so mad at these people in Minnesota that you will never see, that you will never interact with, that it's okay not only the people treat them that way and round all them up, but if their friends and neighbors, United States citizens, get in the way, said, don't fucking do this to our goddamn friends and neighbors in our community. We don't want this. It's okay to shoot and gas and fucking beat the shit out of them. Then there's something wrong with you. I just want to make that clear. If regardless of what the situation is, the vast majority of these people have no violent criminal offenses. They are not mass murderers and rape. Yes, there's some immigrant murderers. And for every immigrant murderer, I can show you a white guy from Mississippi that did the same fucking thing. Because if you haven't noticed, human beings, a lot of them are fucked up everywhere. But you can't just fucking say, well, okay, let's see, if you don't have a fishing license, I'm going to throw a rope around you and drag you down the street and throw you in the goddamn river. The fuck? There was no tear gas in Minneapolis until Trump decided to make a performative attempt to appeal to the coarsest, basest, low-lifest part of his base to distract from all the other shit that he's involved in and to get even with the people that didn't vote for him and the governors and the mayors that don't like him. So they're not interfering with law enforcement when there's a bunch of fucking average people in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, blowing whistles and honking their horns and playing drums outside these people's hotel till all wee hours of the morning. They're not paid protesters. That Carolyn Levitt, I just like to say she's a douchebag. And that she can stand up there and say, well, they're paid protesters and outside agitators. She'd get along with Bull Connor in Birmingham in 1964. Google it, kids. History is repeating itself. She lies and people believe the most basic on the face bullshit of it because they want to. Because they want this to happen because there's something wrong with them. That they believe this is justified. So don't try to get me to smell bullshit and think it's goddamn filet mignon. Because I'm sorry. Ain't gonna happen. And the more people that speak out and tell this motherfucker in particular, and all those fuckers in general, what's wrong with them, they've got my support. I'm sorry, Brian. Did you go to sleep?
Yeah, kind of. But I guess it's time to wake up because
all right.
Now we got wrestling talk and fun talk.
Well, there you go. I just sometimes get a little perturbed. Speaking of who else is perturbed. Well, that's a word also that isn't used that often these days, Brian. The AEW fans are perturbed because one of their big stars is, well, the guy that should have been one of their big stars, but they've fumbled him like 5 years in a row. Powerhouse Hobbs is contract expired. He's leaving the company. He's expected soon in the waiting arms of the WWE. This is kind of a foregone conclusion. But I'm sorry it took this long. I'm just wanting to talk now about if you think, did he wait too long or does he still have a chance? That's my question.
I saw some people say he was 35, other people say 34. So let's say mid-30s. He's got a great look. I hate to say you have to send him to NXT or anything.
Well, he's got to go to NXT.
You think so?
The problem. Yeah, Jesus Christ, you think... That's the whole problem.
Do they put him with Starks again?
No, I'm not saying that because Starks is there. I'm saying here is what I've said's been the problem for a while. They don't learn anything in AEW. And that's the problem is now he's going to have to go to NXT because I'm not talking about he hasn't learned how to do a power slam or whatever the fuck. I'm saying they don't learn how to put matches together. They don't learn how to do finishes. They don't learn logical booking. They don't learn anything about a risk-reward ratio, although that standard is slipping in the WWE these days also. But and when is the last time you heard him speak on television?
I mean, he must. Nothing stands out. Nothing stands out, but he must have done a promo with the Ops. I mean, I don't remember one.
Well, I mean, we watch Dynamite every goddamn week and have for 5 years. When is the last time you heard Powerhouse Hobbs do a promo? I'm not talking about secondary shows or he's a Ring of Honor 6-man tag team champion. That's the problem. Whenever they have used him, they've put him in with guys on the top of the card. He's had some squashes and he's had some big wins, but he's also had major disappearances that weren't chalked up to injury. It's just Tony's haphazard booking. And he was a babyface and he was a heel. Then he became a babyface again because his manager forgot about him. Remember that one? That still stands out in my mind. The book is, so the point I'm making is 5 years ago, if he was 29 years old, that's why I was saying this guy's got all the potential in the world. And for the past few years, I've been saying the same thing about him as some of these other guys. Kyle, good old Kyle Felcher. It's harder to unlearn bad habits and or learn the right way to do things than it is to learn it from scratch. And now you take into, I'm not saying that Hobbs is not capable of being coached, but he's probably going to have some things explained to him as why that would be fucking stupid. because he's done a lot of stupid shit that he's been told to do. And then there's the aspect of just repetition. In the last 5 years, this was the territory days, Hobbs would have, if he was working anywhere on the cards of any territory, he would have had 1,500 matches. Do you think he's had in 5 years, has he had 150 with AEW?
With just AEW, I don't know.
Well, but does he wrestle anywhere else? Is he
I don't know.
A main event player in CMLL? That's what I'm saying, is that he's had few repetitions. He's been in the ring, everything, every kind of style, from the Bucks to Dick the Boozer to, again, a few guys knew what the fuck they were doing. He was around Punk for a while, but now he's got a bunch of conflicted shit. They've confused him. The booking has been stop and start. He hasn't even had the opportunity to practice his promos in any kind of spotlight or major platform. So he's going to have to go to NXT, and they're going to have to figure out the things that they can magnify and accentuate, and the things that they want to try to hide, if any weaknesses, and try to get him starting to talk and with an actual personality gimmick instead of just Powerhouse Hobbs, and he wears the same thing all the time. And
you would get rid of the name?
Well, I don't think it's essential, because it's not like he's a huge star. It's not like, a guy that's been known worldwide suddenly has to change. Like with Vader, they want Vader to change his name. Hobbs has been in AEW. That's it. That's what people know. And that's a small percentage of the overall WWE audience, but they're going to want to own something. But the thing is, remember 5 years ago, they did some kind of promo where he got shot, or his brother was shot, or he got shot trying to protect his brother.
His brother was
I don't even
murdered.
remember now. Okay, well, there you go. But the point is, at that point, I had said 6 years ago, maybe almost, Jesus Christ, maybe farther than that, there's something there. That's the way you introduce. And they did introduce him and then never mentioned it again. And then 3 weeks later, or whatever, he's a heel. And then it's just horrible. The WWE will at least, it's not going to be like Vince, where everybody had to have a job, and somebody was a plumber, and somebody was a hockey player, and somebody was goddamn whatever the fuck. But they're going to try to establish who Powerhouse Hobbs is and tell part of his story. And if they want him to be a babyface, then they're going to tell the story of his brother and his toughness and everything one way. And if they want him to be a heel, then they're going to accentuate maybe in another way.
He's got to be a heel. He's got such a good look for a heel. But facially, he's a heel.
But you know what? But at the same time, he can be a big time babyface
after being a big time heel.
Or he could be a big time heel after being a big time babyface. The point is, they're going to figure out who the fuck he is. They're going to polish him up a little bit, get him some practice talking. And then, I would think that they would not be real patient at his age, because he's still the good thing is he hadn't had a lot of matches. And the bad thing is he hadn't had a lot of matches.
Yeah.
He hasn't had a ton of injuries and just bumped himself to death. But at the same time, he's still inexperienced, at least of his growth potential over the last 5 years. I don't know. Maybe he's been training in secret somewhere and he's going to be a prodigy. But if he just learns what the fuck he sees at those TV tapings, he needs some help down there. But I would think they would want to produce something in the next year or two because of his age.
I would think so too, because of his age. Because of his age, what would you have done if you had a chance to go to WWE And you also had a chance to re-sign with AEW for more than likely more money than WWE. However, you know that you're just going to be running in place. You're never going to... If there was ever a chance you could be a superstar, it's never going to happen in AEW. You're never going to be able to break through that. But in WWE, it could happen. Would you have done the same thing, or would you go for the money of Tony?
No, that's the thing.
35.
Is I think that shows he has determination. That shows that he still thinks that he can contribute instead of just doing whatever the fuck he's been doing, taking bumps into goddamn, what was it? He got electrocuted, didn't he? Last time we saw him take a big bump on Dynamite, he got electrocuted. And then he came back with the
against Adam Page. It was him against Adam Page. Yeah.
But anyway, he still, and it's now or never. So I think he realizes that he's got to, before he gets too old and past his athletic peak, there's a chance he can be real big. It's a probability he's going to be big in the WWE. I don't think he's going to flunk out of it. So eventually he'll probably make probably as much, maybe more money as he'd have made with Tony, to be guaranteed for the next 5 years or whatever, just sit out the rest of his career doing the same shit he's been doing with the same people. But it might have actually been easier on him to take Tony's money, which is why I think I'm more prouder of him that he has bet on himself a little bit.
Are you surprised? I mean, we know that Tony in the past, traditionally, if he thinks you're going to WWE, you're off TV. Happened to a whole bunch of people. We haven't seen Anna Jay on TV in a while, if you haven't noticed. Are you surprised that he's been using Hobbs? I mean, we just saw him in was it a street fight? Him and Hook against Swerve and Adam Page like a week ago?
Yes, and he was part of Joe's group, which has been in this whole,
the main event
picture thing, the main event thing. And of course, if they needed to lose anybody out of that package, it was old Shapoopy. But either Tony was kind of surprised that this happened, but at the same time, several places are reporting that the WWE has said for months, we think Hobbs is coming here when his contract expires. Sources within. So if I can read about it, that was a rumor going back for a while, one would think Tony would have known about it.
Yeah, definitely. If it was on Twitter, Tony knew about it.
So maybe he just figured, well, I've got him in this so far, or maybe he's scared. Maybe he was scared, like, shit, I don't even want to tell him to stay home. I don't know. Who can figure out the way Tony thinks?
It'll be interesting to see what happens, because Hobbs almost universally has been considered one of the most underutilized or underbooked or wrongly booked guys in AEW. He looks like a star. He's got a story, like you said, if you want to make him a babyface. I think he's a great heel. He's one of the guys that never got the big push that other people got. Did Powerhouse Hobbs ever get as good a push as Daniel Garcia?
Oh, gee.
I'm serious. I mean, I guess maybe you could say it's an equal point at best. I mean, but...
No. Oh, my God. Remember the weeks and weeks we couldn't get rid of Garcia from our TV screen? Much less the fucking idiot with his hands in his fucking nuts.
Or Jungle Boy. I mean, all of these guys, they all got better pushes than Hobbs, even though Hobbs had more potential. And look, he's been there.
Jungle Boy, all things being equal, Jungle Boy, if I just looked at a picture and saw him work one time, I would have said, okay, I can hitch a horse to him. It wouldn't become apparent till later he's an idiot. But the pushes that he's given Garcia, or any of these broken down Japanese legends that he keeps providing a wrestling version of the motion picture Country Home for.
Like in 5
to do that.
In 5 years. He's been there 5 years. And we saw him as a heel, we saw him as a babyface. We saw him with Taz, we saw him with, I think, Don Callis. We saw him with Joe Stable. He's been all over the place. He's never had just a good, concerted, like 2-month strong push. Right? They had him work with Moxley, and then he went right back to where he was. I think he won the TNT title at one point, and then you forget about it because he went right back to where he was. He was never in the main event picture. A guy that looks like that, with that kind of potential, was never in the main event picture once.
You know what? If what he had been doing over the last 6 months had been the first we saw of him, it would have been pretty good because he's in a group with Samoa Joe, who's let's say Samoa Joe 5 years ago was the AEW champion. He might have been. But okay, this is 5 years ago. Joe's the AEW champion. Hobbs is his muscle. And good Lord Jesus Christ on a cracker, get rid of Shibata and just put Hook in there as a flunky, obnoxious kid. And that would have been a perfect way to start featuring Hobbs as a policeman and an enforcer to the champion. And he would be standing back right behind him. And then at some point, there would be some element of friction that would lead to a guy like Hobbs breaking out and breaking free of his oppressive fucking boss Samoa Joe, and then you've got a goddamn babyface or something like that. But we've seen him do every goddamn thing in the world for 5 years, but not for long. And then they do this. So,
Tony uses him up till the end, which he never does for any of these people that are going to leave. But there was no breakup. There was no, you're the weak link. There was nothing. It was just, he's now going to be gone. Are they going to say Shibata and Hook ran him off? He's just gone. And now the stable is Joe and Shibata and a Hook. That ain't good. I will say, I think Hobbs was best used, and he wasn't used well in this role at all, but he was best used with Ricky Starks. I wouldn't have a problem with him and Ricky Saints being paired up again. I think Ricky Saints kind of needs a guy behind him who looks like he can kick some ass to back up his mouth. I wouldn't be against that in NXT.
Well, and I wouldn't be against that either, except earlier I was just saying I wouldn't say send him to NXT specifically to be with him. I would say he's going to have to go to NXT anyway if Ricky Saints was not there, because he's going to have to learn the WWE way of doing things, and probably a more restrained and logical way of doing things, and how to accentuate the positives in himself to get himself over, and how they're going to tell a story about him. That's going to determine, how people start taking to him. Not just, they haven't told us anything in the past 4.5 years about who Powerhouse Hobbs is or why he wants to do any of the things he's doing. He's just doing them. Am I right?
For the most part, I think you're right, yeah.
We don't remember anything about it until I mentioned it about his brother. It said the point is, yes, they're gonna tell us maybe who he is, who they want him to be, what we're supposed to fucking like or dislike about him, and how to present him. And that's going to take some time to get him with it also.
I just hope they don't give him a stupid NXT name. That's what I really am dreading. It's DeMarcus Jones. What's he doing here? I just don't want that,
That if they're hopefully this interested in a guy, and they know this guy is not just coming, out of wrestling school, that he's not only been around for some time, but also the clock is ticking. So I think they're going to, if they want him at his age, that means they have some plans and believe they can get something more than just taking any old jack leg off the street, as they used to say.
Do you think it's a loss for AEW? And that's a weird question, but this is the last thing about this. Considering his age, the way he's been pushed, the realities of what any push would more than likely be going forward, who's currently in the main event picture, who probably will be in the next few years. I mean, is it a loss for AEW, or is it a nothing for AEW because they used him so poorly?
Well, that's the thing. It's a gain for the WWE's developmental program and probably for the not too distant future of its main roster, one would think. But it's hard for anybody to be a loss in AEW except for the very well, they've lost a couple of the key names. Osprey still, we haven't seen him in a few months now from his surgery, whatever. It's hard for anybody to be a loss because they're all just there. Think about MJF left and did a movie or whatever the fuck he did and has come back, and the business and or the numbers and or anything at this point, nothing goes up or down at this point, no matter who's there or not there. Am I exaggerating, or have you seen evidence to the contrary to what I'm saying?
Where we are today, I don't think really anyone is a big mover anymore. But again, we don't see quarter hours or anything. We're just looking at the big picture.
I'm not even talking about the quarter hours, because those poor gluttons for punishment, they come back the next week and start watching it. They fucking run them off again. But I mean, just on any meaningful basis, when's the last time that anybody coming or going or getting hurt and being out or debuting or whatever just made any real noticeable, appreciable difference in anything? Or are they just there for whatever the fuck's going to go on at this point in this promotion?
Yes.
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 That was so long of a question, I forgot. I lost my concentration when I said that. I lost it when I was asking the question. I don't know if I if I phrased it grammatically correctly or not. But see, that, you know, Brian, that's what happens when you lose your concentration. That's, you know, sometimes you can just say just gibberish type things. And people don't want to, most people don't want to do that in public, although some people do these days. But nevertheless, it's a new year, Brian, but we need to concentrate and focus on our future. We need to try to modify some of our behaviors to be more healthy. We need to be more positive, as the Iron Sheik would say, positive. And one of the things that they say now, you've seen this probably on the news, Brian, you've read about this, is that people are using a variety of stimulants to get them through the day, whether it be the nicotine or the caffeine. You know, that sent me to the hospital. We've talked about that many times. I've had a caffeine problem. Well, I also had a sugar problem. A sugar is that's why I was so hyper in the 80s, Brian. Now that I'm a calm person in my 60s, I realize how hyper I was 40 years ago.
Hey, you've really calmed down.
Well, I'm practically comatose now. But you know, people are taking stimulants, and those are not good for you. You might take them way more than you mean to. Do you just start grabbing one without even thinking? Are the effects of these stimulants, these nasty, nasty stimulants, messing with your health or your productivity? Are you having trouble with your sleep, your energy, your workouts, your stress levels? Are you a ticking time bomb, Brian, ready to explode? That's a question I'm at. Are you ticking? Can you hear yourself ticking?
If I could hear myself ticking, I'd lose my mind to be talking about it on the air, those ticking sounds, and apologizing for them. So, no, I think I'm okay. No ticking.
Well, some people are ticking. And that's going to make your sleep slip and your recovery get harder and your stress feeling higher than it should. And that's why our friends at TakeUltra.com have come out with the Ultra pouches. You've obviously, Brian, this is captivating the medical news across the country. The Ultra pouches are completely nicotine and caffeine free, and they're packed with new tropics, not the old tropics, not those horrible palm leaves and sandy beaches that you remember, but the new tropics that are designed for mental clarity and enhanced focus with the same kick as a nicotine pouch. If it'll kick you right in the jaw. You'll feel like you've been whacked by a mule. But if you like that type of thing,
feel like that. That won't be the feeling at all.
But it won't have the side effects of a nicotine pouch like buzz, addiction, crash, jitters, vasoconstriction, or gum rot. That sounds like a Carlin routine. Vasoconstriction or gum rot. But that's what the nicotine will do to you. But that don't have no nicotine in the ultra pouches. And they elevate all your good stuff without elevating your bad stuff. They don't raise your blood pressure like most pouches or keep your body in a constant stress state. And heaven knows we don't need any of that. No, as a matter of fact, it improves your focus. You have a calm, steady flow state focus with enhanced memory, smooth energy. And as a matter of fact, if you pop 2 pouches, you will have extra clarity. It gives you the little description right on the side of the jar there. Now they've had to modify these instructions somewhat because early testing of this product saw that if you gobbled like a half a pound of it, you could see through walls. And they were going to market to people who live next door to sexy divorcees and Swedish flight attendants.
This is no study that has been undertaken by the wonderful people at Ultra Pouches or a study that found out ever be happening anywhere on planet Earth.
There were side effects that we don't want to go into, but that's
not something we know anything about. That's not something.
You see so much of a proliferation of Bigfoot sighting.
Can I jump in and give a personal
Yes, please
comment?
jump in and concentrate.
I personally have become a fan of these Ultra Pouches that they sent over. And in fact, if the fine people from Ultra Pouches are here today, I think I would just say, send samples of the watermelon. It looks really good. But no, these are great. And I have really enjoyed the wintergreen and the tropical. And 1, sometimes 2 at a time. But it really does give you a little bit of focus. I've been using it to edit.
They've been telling me they're going to send me the banana cream pie, but it hasn't showed up yet.
They don't have that yet. Watermelon's on the website. Banana cream pie is not.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The nicotine pouches disrupt your hormone balance, lower your testosterone, and can shrink your balls. The only thing they don't say there is that you'll get one of those taint diseases like they talk about on TV commercials, but you don't want that shit.
What?
Again, 0 nicotine and natural nootropics, smooth energy, mood balance, enhanced memory, and a calm, steady editing session for Brian Last. Right now, the ultimate guilt-free pouch is the Ultra. Get the instant focus, the mental clarity, and the ability to see through walls potentially if they perfect that latest formula. And right now, if you use the code JCE, you can get 15% off at takeultra.com. That's takeultra.com. 15% off with the promo code JCE. And please focus enough right now to promise that you will support our show and tell them we sent you whenever you check out of their fine online store.
That's right.
A lot of people are just wandering around, Brian. They don't, like a chicken with their head cut off. They don't know what they're doing in the world these days. You need to calm down and focus.
Once again, I could say these have helped me with editing. They've helped me with my focus. Check them out today. Ultra Pouches. And again, if you're over there, that watermelon sure looks good. I'd really love if some of that ended up in my mailbox. But Jim, I understand we have a great deal for the listeners with a great promo code.
JCE, 15% off, and just focus on that. Just hone in, and your mind will take you to places that you've never been before.
That's a way
like a Hollywood movie.
I don't know about that. This is
Spill the wine. Take that. I'm sorry. I was concentrating.
You should not have the burden of Jim singing Eric Burden.
Oh, very good.
You can get your Ultra Pouches. Once again, promo code JCE. More about them in the future. Hey, Jim, before we move on, I know there's still some news of comings and goings. Have you seen the statement that Kota Ibushi released?
Oh boy. No, I have not. But is is he finally decided to hang it up? I heard he hobbled to the ring for
Yeah.
to wave at the fans at Tanahashi's retirement in Japan, or and no, that's the word that was used. Was he
That's
hobbled
what
to
it
the
was.
ring?
No, he quite literally did. I saw it.
So
Yeah,
what's he
the guy
saying?
can't
about
walk. They made
this?
him walk the longest runway there is in pro wrestling at the
That's
Tokyo
right. They're in the
Dome.
Tokyo Dome. Jesus Christ! The fuck? They could got him a golf cart.
Well, he put up an Instagram post, and here's what it says. I'm so sorry, Kenny. There's no guarantee, but medically, I have 1 year and 9 months left.
Jesus.
I'll cure you in 9 unnecessary months. That means I'll be back in 2026. I've caused trouble for Kenny. In return, I can't say for sure, but I'll do it. I've gained the power to send out new energy. Shall I teach you bald guys that you have no chance of winning? Yesterday, for the first time in a while, I was able to enter the Budokan in costume for a live performance by the band that plays my entrance song. I think I've fulfilled another ambition, and to Tony Khan, I'll be making a comeback once again. I'm not sure if my English will be understood, but I'll do my best anyway.
Wait a minute. Okay. Here's the problem. Is he using one of those auto translate things? Is he speaking gibberish in Japanese and it's translating to gibberish, or is he trying to speak English poorly and that's what he's writing and thinks it makes sense? Is that, I guess that's more likely, because none of that makes any sense, does it? What you just said.
I'm not exactly sure what he said. Again, I'll cure you in 9 unnecessary months, but then it says I have 1 year and 9 months left. So there's a 1 year period that's kind of up in the air right now.
Well, he's trying to give Kenny a discount or something, and he'll be back in a year instead of a year and 9 months, maybe.
That's a hell of a way to say I'll return to help my partner. I'll cure you in 9 months.
I'll say, maybe they should have said, maybe I'll save you. I'll help you. Oh yeah, hold on for just a little under a year, and I'll be there to help you out in this fucking fight. Jesus Christ.
For real, he's made himself now must watch for me. When Kota Ibushi returns, I'm going to be watching his next match like a hawk.
He could just drop.
Just waiting for something. His leg may fall off. He may just take a step and that's it. And then Tony pays him for another 2 years to go tweet in Japan. Whatever the fuck he's doing. But yeah, I can't wait to see his return. I really, really can't wait. But there's a lot of things happening with AEW in terms of talent. They lost Powerhouse.
Yes,
Hobbs.
they've got some. I heard they have acquisitions, and I don't know who.
Well, of course, the word came out that they lost Powerhouse Hobbs. And then on AEW Dynamite, the first of the announcements was made. They put up an image on the screen, which actually they never do. They never really announce these people have been signed and they're coming here. Some of that may be because
I bet it's hit a nerve with Tony that, it's going to be in the news that we've lost a guy, so he's going to sign 6 or 8 more people, make up for it, and obfuscate the issue.
Well, AEW has signed the Rascals. Felix and the band will be joining the AEW roster.
I was about to say, how old is Felix Cavallari? He's got to be 80. I can't.
The Rascals are Desmond Xavier, Zachary Wentz, Trey Miguel, and Myron Reed. Answering the question, will there ever be a wrestling star named Myron? And now there is one. Who knew?
4 of them are a team called the Rascals. I recognize a couple of is 1 or 2 of those guys was on one of the programs we watched for a while that they have prison tattoos and just look sloppy as fuck.
But, they're kind of like remember Jack Evans? If Jack Evans met the Young Bucks and then got prison tattoos and just did a bunch of flips and shit. Yeah.
But okay, so he signed 4 of them to take the attention off of losing one guy over there. But that's 4 more guys that honestly are going to do the same shit that they already got a lot of guys doing. And it ain't good already, so they don't need to add to it.
And we'll talk about some of the other people they've signed, but in terms of, if you look past who they are and what talent they are or aren't, the strategic move here, in terms of, these are not just 4 indie guys. These are 4 guys from TNA. Right before TNA, the week TNA got their new TV show, where apparently they were figured in, at least one of the guys had his match pulled, because he signed with AEW and they didn't know, and then that was going to be on the show. But Tony got TNA talent who have been featured, some of them on NXT. So I think this is, we always say, where's Tony going to get talent? I personally am not a fan of the bits I've seen of these guys. But in terms of guys who have been on national TV, they've been on 2 different wrestling shows. And now they'll be here, and they could use the name apparently that they use. So in a sense, it's the first time in a while Tony's had a little bit of a, and I say little bit, just a little bit of a win in terms of, hey, we get to announce this and surprise everyone.
A surprise? Boy, if that was my surprise birthday party, I'd go back home. That's the problem, is that you mentioned that Tony doesn't have anywhere to get any talent from, but what Tony looks for is 4 more guys who all look and do the same shit as a bunch of guys he's already got that look and do the same. And what he lost was a guy he's had for 5 years that nobody in the company looked like him or could potentially do the things that he could fucking do. So I think it's a net negative, at least 4-on-1 for Tony there, that you lost a guy that could have been a fucking guy for 4 guys that can be 4 of the guys. That's just, let's let them captivate me with their incredible fucking promos and main event level performances, and I'll change my mind.
Well, again, those 4 stars will be added to the AEW roster. I'm sure there'll be some great flipping matches with the Young Bucks at some point in the future. But other names that Tony has signed this week, Hechicero. He announced
he's been on the fucking show.
He has now signed or at least it was announced that he had signed a CMLL AEW split contract, a joint contract between the 2 companies. Jim, also this week, Tony Khan has locked down Mascara Dorada. 24 years old. Of course, we talked about the top-rated matches of 2025 for Dave Meltzer. Mascara Dorada was in about 150 of them. And now Tony Khan, once again, working with CMLL.
Working with Uncle Dave and Conquered by the Sea Incorporated.
And of course, CMLL must be happy that Tony's not just taking everyone. It's a joint deal. Also signing with AEW this past week.
Hold on now. Let's go back. Wouldn't you know who won the pony? That Uncle Dave's new crush of the moment, and I'm not talking about Brian Adams, it suddenly gets signed to, and he's already been on the show anyway, but now he's signed to a big contract. But again, how many miscellaneous guys from Mexico under a mask do they have now that do approximately the same shit? Now continue on with the
Again, I have what Dave Meltzer wrote here. Mascara Dorada, 24, one of the best and most exciting young wrestlers in the business, is also signed to a joint deal. He is the number 2 babyface behind Mystico in CMLL and one of the best flying wrestlers of all time already. So again, taking the name and the talent and what you think of him out of the picture, you know WWE would be after this guy. Is it worth it? Again, they like Mascara Dorada much more than you and I ever would, and maybe they even see a way to make money with him. But just in terms of, again, where's Tony going to get talent, you kind of have to start locking down guys now before WWE gets a hold of him and gets him in the system. Because they are trying to prevent Tony Khan from being able to get people.
Well, and if the WWE are interested, and I guess they would be, in a 24-year-old guy that can do anything at this fucking point, then I would sign him and I would give him a big contract. And what I wouldn't have done is in the previous 2 years signed Commander and Gravity and Spaceship and Neon and Joe Fritz and Blue Suede Shoes and 18 other fucking guys, including Bandito that we're going to talk about momentarily. And I can see getting the 2 or 3 or 4 top guys, especially that might draw a house in Mexico, and especially if they might be guys the WWE would legitimately be interested in. Oh, I forgot about Vikingo. But just this miscellaneous, that mope-faced midgets that aren't masked, or the just constant array of miscellaneous guys in masks running around every once in a while on the show. He's just muddied the water for legitimate major superstars. Because everybody looks so incredibly same at this point, because it's not any novelty on their program. And most of the guys are just booked to be people that run around and do all the fucking swing dancing and do-si-do.
Well, Jim, 2 more names that AEW signed this past week.
Jesus Christ, he loses 1 guy and signs 12. Go ahead.
Well, one that we have seen previously, or at least heard the name of, 24 years old, from CMLL, Persephone, a.k.a. Persephone.
I thought we had decided it was Persephone, and we thought it was Persephone.
Well, we will find out, because she'll be on AEW TV in the future. According to Dave Meltzer,
can we make her hometown Parsippany?
That would be funny. According to Dave Meltzer, WWE was interested in her since the London match that she was in. So another person that WWE wanted. And the final signing, I may get this wrong, her name is Tatvik Hunanin.
Wait a minute. Tatvik Punani? What are you saying to me?
Hunanin, I believe would be the last name.
Who knew?
She's 36 years old, and she was a former actress, according to this, with a kickboxing background.
A 36-year-old former kickboxing actress. I can't wait to see what Marina Schaefer better look out.
Also this week, Tony signed Cynthia Rothrock to a 10-year deal. Not a kid, but
who the fuck is it? Who is
she
that?
was a female karate star in the movies that Marty Gorman was obsessed with. But Jim, these signings,
I didn't know they let Marty Gorman in movies.
Again, you lose Hobbs. You kind of said it there really the best. There aren't guys that look like that. And in terms of the Rascals, you sign guys that kind of just maybe if you
look
watch
like that.
Yeah, they don't stand out. They don't seem like they have a great look like a Hobbs. And the Luchadors, like you said, if Mascara Dorada is the greatest thing of all time, you shouldn't flood the show with generic Luchadors. So we'll see.
When Mascaras would main event in the United States, how many, except potentially in Corpus Christi or whatever, Los Angeles, how many other guys were wearing masks on the card?
Not too many, if any.
Nobody. Madison Square Garden, anyone?
Madison Square Garden, his opponent wasn't allowed to wear a mask.
That's right. He was the first one that was allowed to wear a mask in Madison Square Garden history in 1972.
And I think he wrestled, I could be wrong, he wrestled El Olympico. It was either that one or one of the first ones. And you see the video and he has like one of those masks with the face cut out of it. So you see his face.
But no, it was, oh, God damn it. I used to know the answer to this question. El Olympico had to, on another occasion, wrestle another heel there with his face cut out of the mask. But the guy that was it wasn't the Golden Terror. It was an American guy. That sounds fairly fucking redneck. It's an American guy. but it was a heel that was normally masked, and they made him wear an open face mask when he wrestled in the Garden, as opposed to the regular mask that he wore everywhere else in the WWF territory. But they let Mascara slide because of he wouldn't do it without it. He wouldn't take his mask off, and he was so popular. And then they just changed the law, the athletic commission.
How would that even help the masked wrestler if you have to show up and expose your face and why would you even still wear anything? Just to hide the hair?
No, it was goofy, but that's what they were forced to do. But nevertheless, if I would hide my face too, if I was some of these people right now. How about that?
Well, it sounds like a promising future for AEW Dynamite and Collision. We will cover those happenings when they happen.
Well, right now, we're going to cover the other side of the coin and go to total nonstop action wrestling.
Well, Jim, this was the big one. The AMC debut for TNA, which had been on Access TV, which was owned by the parent company for a long time. And, of course, we've seen many big TNA first night of being on Monday or first time on a new channel. But this one was pretty big. It's the first real big positive momentum this way for TNA in a long time. It was definitely, I thought this was worth you checking it out because it should be one of their big shows.
Yeah, thanks a lot there. Tain't funny, McGee, as Mama Cornette would say. Their momentum hit a brick wall. Did I curse them? Because I was watching this. This was just at the top of the show. I'm going to say now this was one of the biggest clusterfucks I've ever seen in my life. For a new network debut, I don't know what the normal TNA TV show looks like because we haven't watched it in quite a while. So if this was indicative of what they've been, it's just been a mess. But if this was what they did because they tried to be so fancy and so grandiose on their debut that they shit the bed in the completely opposite direction, maybe that's one thing. But this was not. One would think that the reason why they're making a big deal out of going on AMC is because they expected to be in front of a lot of new eyeballs, a brand new audience, open up a bigger platform that more people might be seeing this thing. Could they have done a better job out of confusing anybody who had never seen this fucking show before? If they tried on purpose, let's really drive those motherfuckers crazy. Let's get them so confused they don't know who the fuck they're looking at. Could they have done a better job? I ask you.
I thought the show was horrible, and we could break it down. I said a little bit at the very top of the show. Confusion really wasn't the issue for me. Of all the many issues I had, it wasn't, I'm confused about things. It does seem to have a little bit of an identity crisis. Are they alternative NXT? Or are they their own company? It's, the whole thing. Even the guy in charge, Carlos Silva, it's like if Tony Khan and Carrie Silken had a baby with no charisma.
Oh, God damn it. I think he might be Carrie's brother-in-law more than, just a guy comes out wearing a baseball cap and a funny coat. But no, when I say confusion, I'm looking at it from a television producer who is on more than one occasion, several, has formatted a television program that was the first one for that product to reach a wide audience. Whether it was with Ohio Valley Wrestling, when we went from the low-power TV station to the big full cable coverage WB juggernaut that we had, or Ring of Honor at least going on Sinclair, or whatever the case, or when we did a few different things in WCW and WWE. They tried to be everything and so fancy, and it was a mess. And I'm not even talking about the amateur hour gimmicks and the almost parody of some things to the point where it was ridiculous. But when they started the show, they're in Dallas, Texas, right at that Colwell Center. And they've got, from what I understand from the internet, they had somewhere around 2,800 people, but it's not a big building. So at first, their first shot looked good. And I should mention the cold open first. Apparently, Dave Sahadi is no longer working for him because they tried to do one of those cold opens with the announcer voiceover with gravitas instead of a Liv Schreiber type. They got like a fucking YouTube guy in his basement growling into a microphone, and the verbiage was hokey and over the top. They did nice editing visually with the video, but again, it was like they were trying to do a great show for the microscopic audience that they have had up till now, rather than try to do a show that new people could actually sit down and understand what the fuck was going on. Did you even watch the cold open? And if so, do you see what I'm saying? It was just so over the top with the flowery verbiage and the growling, trying to simulate an NFL films thing. Yeah. And it was just meaningless highlights if you didn't know who these people were.
Well, again, I don't know how much of that is something they do regularly or if that's just a throwback to the old days. Because when Dave Sahadi was doing it for TNA, those were kind of, at the time, groundbreaking.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. This was
the guy's voice was the thing I remember the most.
Well, this was, let's put it together in the fucking basement, but also, if you're showing this to a new audience, we don't know who any of these fucking people are, and you've already lost everybody. And then they come out and they've got a nice hot crowd, and you could tell that the people were motivated to make it a big deal. They're chanting AMC, they're chanting TNA, whatever, and here comes AJ Styles and gets a big pop. And you can debate that they were calling AJ the original face of TNA or whatever when AJ was there, just like Joe and Rude and so many of those guys, the ex-WWF guys, were presented over them, but AJ was synonymous with the best period of TNA at that point, at least in the fans' minds that are left. And he's a star, and they loved him, and the AJ chants. And he did the big introduction to the house that AJ Styles built, but he put TNA over and on AMC and got him to chant again. And when AJ got in after that entrance, the announcers are talking, and that's the problem. One of the problems this show's had, the announcers talked. Whoever the fuck these two are, they're doing the old thing that everybody does, and you do it better than I do, Brian, where they're playing announcer and talking like that just all the time.
This is one of the greatest nights we've ever seen. Look at this match. This animal is just out of control. What do you think?
Well, they were talking, but we don't know what these motherfuckers look like. And it's not even like it's Jim Ross or, whatever, where everybody knows. They could have done a 10-second swing around with a handheld and given them a graphic with their names and just put their faces on it so we know who's speaking. It's a brand new show. We've never seen these people before. They did it later on, but they could have done it then. But then AJ could have done his promo. But then after the AJ promo and he's got them chanting TNA, TNA, then they went to the show open. An animated show open, and it's nicely edited, and it has more highlights of people that we still don't really know who these motherfuckers are. And if this was the animated open that they're going to use on the show going forward every week, well, I think it's just swell. But they had the people up and chanting, and then they go to that. And then when they come out of that, Brian, did you love the shot of the vacant outdoor Curtis Colwell Center after dark? Did you pay attention to that even?
There were some interesting shots. There were times where the crowd looked really good. And then there were other times.
No, I'm talking about the outdoor.
I saw the outdoor shot, sure.
The drone shot. There was not one living human being. It's the building. There's no cars in the parking lot. All they showed was the handicap spots. There were no cars in the parking lot. There was nobody in the lobby. You could see through the building, the glass of the front of the lobby. There's nobody in the lobby. There's nobody walking on the sidewalk. There's not a fucking, it looked like The Walking Dead after the zombie apocalypse. And it was just a slow 20-degree pan of a fucking elevated drone shot of this empty fucking building. They couldn't send some wise ass with a handheld out there at 5:30, 6 o'clock when all these 2,782 people are trying to get in this place and say, this was the scene earlier tonight. And there's more of the announcers that we have not goddamn seen yet that is talking about the Curtis Caldwell Center. And then, now that they come back in the building, they've turned the lights down and settled everything down. So guess who's the first person you see on this show? Elijah. When I read it, I thought, oh, Elijah Burke is there? Elijah used to be Elias, who had a brother named Ezekiel, who sat there with that stupid fucking guitar and asked us to take a walk. And then the WWE asked him to take a walk. And now he's here. And he's doing the same goddamn thing. I know I'm moving in quick succession, Brian, but I'll stop here because we're about to get into a match. But the point is, they didn't need the drone shot. But they do it because the WWF does it. But they did it at the worst possible time. Live when everybody's in the fucking arena and you're shooting the outside. You simpletons. You couldn't foresee that? So you've announced you're in Dallas. You've gone to a cold open. You've come out to a hot crowd. You gave them a star. Then you went to a pre-taped show open. Then you went to a shot of a fucking empty parking lot. Then you came back into the goddamn building and settled everybody down for this goddamn James Taylor wannabe with a fucking beard. How many opens to this show do they need to do? I'm talking about the formatting here, most importantly, Brian. So now your thoughts.
Wow. Again, I keep going back to the same thing. It's a bad show. I know the TNA fans always get on us that you have to give TNA a chance, watch it. When I watch it, the first thing I see is AJ Styles is a star in another company who's coming out here just to do a quick rah-rah thing and get out of there.
And we never saw him. Well, we saw him in the back, but the people in the arena never saw him again.
And by the way, he's there, and we'll talk about Dixie and everything else happening. You think Jeff Jarrett felt left out?
No, I think he felt safe. Safe at home.
Very good. Well, they go from AJ to Elias, who, again, if you are someone watching this...
no, Elijah.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If you're someone watching this, you're familiar with him probably from WWE TV. You probably haven't said, hey, I really miss that Elias guy. And when he shaved and he was his own brother. And he's here doing the exact same gimmick. And to me, that's the problem with TNA. They have no identity for themselves. It's like a WWE little brother show, but not like in a good way. Like NXT should be the little brother show. It's almost like the outcast cousin. But like there's elements of what WWE does that they do.
Is this show like a Randy Quaid?
This is the Cousin Oliver of professional wrestling shows. And, the commentators are doing WWE style commentary, which shouldn't surprise you because the main commentator is a guy who probably trained under Michael Cole in the Kevin Dunn WWE announcing system, which sucks, which is talk in a disingenuous way and think that people are really going to pay attention to anything you're saying. It's completely not effective. Wrestling needs a host, but that's a whole nother issue. But there's no
Well,
there's no identity. It just it looks cheap. I'm sorry, it does. It looks so
well,
cheap.
Let's hold on before
I'm
we
getting ready to shit on it all. Just whatever you want to talk about.
Before we judge too harshly, let's get into this fucking match. Again, I'm talking about presenting. You don't want to just start from scratch, disregard all your angles and who is done what and what everybody's relationship is when you start on a new station with a wider reach. But what you do want to do is you want to start out with the thought that we are going to maintain the stories as best we can that we have been telling for our existing fans while trying to slow down for a few weeks and tell the new people enough to catch them up without bombarding them with enough just nonsense that they can't keep track of. Do you see what I'm saying?
See, I guess that's part of the problem in my eyes. And I don't own TNA, so it's easy for me to sit here and say that. But I would almost, if I did want to run off the fans I have and start anew, because that's part of the problem. They're accepting of this. The people who defend TNA seriously watch it and say, that's a good show. What kind of problem do they have with these shows? These nonstop women's segments with bad acting? These WWE outcasts doing shit I don't care about? It seems like WWE's not even the big thing. NXT. It's under the thumb of NXT. NXT's like the big overriding thing on this whole show.
Well, but still, boy, when I'm trying to be the voice of reason, I know it's gotten you. You're just trying to make up for it driving me crazy.
No, it didn't make me happy either.
But that's the thing is that you need to. They gave him a big star at the beginning. They had him hooked. What about if the fucking top babyface had come out and joined AJ for a promo, a rah-rah, so we give him a little rub? Or what about if the top heel, whoever that might be, had come out to fucking verbally joust with him or whatever? But no, they got him up. Then they left him. Okay, now who are we going to see next after the exterior and all the other shit? And here's Elijah. And then suddenly, who wants to walk with Elijah? And then the lights come on, and here's the guitar player, and the Hardys come out, and there's random people, civilians coming down the stage with cell phones, and Matt's carrying 2 belts, and Jeff's got 1. And all these people suddenly burst out and are making noise. And now we see the announcers when we only had fucking one fucking guy that we knew who the fuck he was walking out before. We didn't see the announcers. But now that there's 16 and we don't even know what we're looking at, here's the announcers too. And they give us a ridiculous amount of information about what the matches are going to be. Again, amongst people we've never heard of before or seeing for the first time as a new audience. And then they introduce the baby faces, and then it's time for the heels to enter for the 6-man tag. Matt and Jeff and Elijah against, and here comes, what are their guys, the group's name? Order 4. Clean up in aisle 6. The group's name is Order 4. And guys start coming down the entranceway in suits. And Mustafa Ali, who we used to know as Muhammad Ali over there in Titanland, he's one of them, but there's other guys in suits. There's a manager or security force guy. But as soon as they're coming down the ramp, they fly in a box from the last big pay-per-view where there's Elijah is riding a horse inside the arena behind Mustafa Ali and hog ties him with a rope and drags him out of the arena. This is in a double box they've flown in while these people are making their entrances and there's a girl in the group. But as the ring announcer is about to introduce them, they jump into the ring and jumpstart the match and cut the introduction off. And I wrote, I can't write this fast. But with these, they started coming down the ramp and suddenly they fly in a double box it's bigger with a picture of a guy riding a horse indoors. It just looks fucking ridiculous. All of it. It's just coming at you.
Isn't it amazing that this happened, that we heard nothing? Like, no one said, how come you guys haven't talked about him riding into town on a horse and lassoing his opponent and dragging him out of the building? Not one word from anyone about this.
And I want to thank all those people who didn't tell us. And then the announcer started saying, and I wrote one of the heels in white. The heels were all dressed in white. And one of them is John Schuyler, he used to be somewhere. Was he in the Dork Order? Was that John Silver?
Yeah.
Or I don't know. And they went no tags with a 6-way. Elijah suplexed one of the heels off the top rope while he was standing on the backs of two of the other ones. They've got a girl referee that has a ponytail. Never seen that before. And they went a minute and went to the fucking break. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, thank God they stopped. I was getting seasick. They've lost everybody by that point. It's like, what is going on here? Then they came back from the break. I swear to God, the Hardys were on the floor for some reason. They'd been wiped out. And Elijah foiled the heels and hit a hot tag to Jeff. And right as he hit the hot tag, the camera was showing the celebrities in the audience looking bored. And when I say celebrities, I'm talking about people on AMC shows that we have never fucking heard of. And they weren't even jumping up and down. They were just like, yeah, we're here. And they missed the hot tag. Jeff made the comeback. The heel girl got in the ring. The referee was just looking at it. And Jeff ran one of the heels into the heel girl, and then the girl was on the heel's back. So Matt gave a twist of fate to both of them. And then cover, and the referee counted a clusterfuck save. The heels tagged again. And then Jeff swanton one of these guys with every bit of his fucking weight right on this guy. 1, 2, 3. And I have heard people say that maybe Jeff is doing that because he's hurt. He can't take the bump on the mat anymore. Then don't do the goddamn move. We are going to have a serious fucking issue if you jump off. I'm laying there on purpose waiting for you, and you jump off the top rope and land on me in that manner. We have a serious fucking problem to discuss. Fucking hell. Do you have any comments here? Because there's more.
Keep going.
Well, Special Agent Zero popped up and got in. This fucking guy that they were trying to sell, like, my God, he's a walking deadly weapon, like he looked like Batista or something. He looks like, he looks like a fucking guy with a kind of funny haircut and a suit. And he beat up all three of the baby faces. And then Vincent and Dutch from The Righteous, remember them from years ago somewhere?
AEW, yeah.
Well, they came out in their white suits to save the Hardys and make Special Agent Zero and the rest of his Zero teammates get out of there. And then they helped the Hardys up and beat the shit out of them. And they padlocked the gross fucking hole that Jeff Hardy has in his fucking ear. They put a padlock in that and chained him to the turnbuckle and beat up Matt. And said they were going to win the belts at the pay-per-view. All that didn't take 10 minutes. It was just, what the fuck is happening and who are these people? And they ran off and left everybody. After AJ, if they had one of their talents to come and join him in festivities in the ring, then couldn't they have started with a single match for 8 minutes between two of the used people in this organization where then the announcers could have had a little more time to talk about the big main event and all the things you're going to see and AMC and all those type of things, and have two athletes that looked like they were halfway competent. Give us a little fucking action in the ring and then start going into give me your thoughts so we can move along.
Again, this isn't even about the Hardys at this point. I've said my piece about them when they were in AEW. Nothing changes. The whole thing just feels minor league to me. The look, the ring ropes, I mean, just everything about everything there just looked cheap. There were some shots where the crowd looked really good, and then other ones where, whatever they called it, Hollywood Row.
Yes,
celebrities, no one in the second row. But in terms of who's in this, you know, if I was watching TNA, maybe I would give the Righteous a chance. I saw enough in AEW to know that they're in like a Wyatt wannabe gimmick, or just some sort of wacky gimmick that, you know, is too wacky for wrestling.
They're
probably.
wacky.
Yeah,
they're wacky.
The Hardys are the Hardys. Elias wasn't a gimmick I ever wanted to see again.
You know what? He, of all of them, has a physique and size and did some nice athletic shit. It's just the rotten gimmick and the presentation, and he's always in the middle of fools.
And at this point, he'll never be able to outrun that gimmick. That's the gimmick. That's it forever.
So, yeah.
And then the other guys, the Wall and whatever else was happening there with that team, all in their suit. Again, who cares? Every now and then we hear from people like, oh, you have to give Mustafa Ali a chance. He's really good and he does impassioned promos. And every time I check out anything he's doing, it's some sort of fucking indie level comedy group or just something that not for me at all.
He takes a good bump face first into the turnbuckle. But you talked about Hollywood Row. Let's go to Hollywood Row. They had nice crowd shots at the beginning of the program, these wide sweeping shots of the stands where all these people were. It looked like something. And then they show a boxer that nobody's ever heard of that apparently was part of the flyweight category. He looked like he was as big as Cowboy Lang. He's holding a belt.
No
and
pop.
Then
no pop,
because who knows who the fuck this guy is. And then they show a row of content creators. What the fuck is a content creator? And not only that, but they have put these content creators and this goddamn unknown boxer in a completely empty ringside section in front of a section of the building that's empty. There's no people in the stands on that side of the building, and they've just revealed that. We wouldn't have known it except for the shot they took on purpose. That we would have never seen that. We would have seen it on any shot of the ring or the entranceway, but because they had to show content creators, and then they went to another shot of more empty seats, and not just because they're in an empty section of ringside, but you see in the back, half the building, the bleachers are empty. And they had to do that to show Flop Dollar. Like that's an attraction. Look who's here, Flop Dollar. He's a rapper and a wrestler. Doesn't do either one very well. And so they show 500 more empty seats. And then they have a girl announcer who is horrible.
Well, hold on. What kind of problem did you have with her?
No, she's grim death on the fucking microphone. No, she was rotten to the core. And they put her in front of the empty seats to talk to the stars of AMC that nobody knew who the fuck they were. And then Ryan Nemeth, not even Nick, but Ryan, comes out to do the deal where he interrupts the stars. And apparently they were running long because he just had to go into it. Oh, fuck you. And there was a shove. And then he goes to jump the rail and he crotched himself on the rail, jumping over it to attack the celebrities and made a funny face. And one of them hit him and he fell down and it was bad comedy. It was so fake. And they go from this. Now, just think about this. This is their debut on AMC. They've shown 3 giant sections of empty seats in the building that they didn't need to, except they had to shoot the people that nobody's ever heard of to illustrate that they have no celebrities that are known on a national basis in their fucking building. They could have put these people in front of the front row that was full and gone to them quick with the announcers at ringside instead of this fucking girl who shrieked through the whole thing. And after they take those unnecessary shots, then they go to a clip of Santino Marella's daughter kicking him in the balls in a cage match. And just said, I like him. Yeah. And here, unfortunately, Santino's daughter has turned on him. He's lost it. What the fuck? Most of these people might remember, if you got, again, any new audience, is going to remember Santino Marella as the comedy idiot with the sock on his arm 15 years ago. Instead, they show his daughter kicking him in the balls in a cage match like he must wrestle here regularly. Goddamn, how old is he? And then they bring him out. He's in a sweatsuit and he's the director of authority with funny music, doing his funny accent, wearing a badge on a chain around his neck like a fireman's badge. And the announcers even reference his quote unquote brand of entertainment while he comes out and does a promo about his daughter turning on him while still doing a comedy accent. And this is the guy that's supposed to be running the show. They sold this to AMC. Brian, this is some cable access shit if I ever saw it.
Yeah. And again, I talk about, you watch this show, it's WWE Outcasts. And it's people that still enjoy that shit. There was an audience that liked the Santino stuff. And then there were a lot of us. And when I say us, I mean people like me, people who became AEW fans, who said this specifically is the kind of shit I don't like. And although you may make some of the kids in the crowd happy, or you may make someone laugh with your sock on your arm, being a snake, to a lot of us it is the exact example of everything that's wrong with modern wrestling. Wrestling can have crazy characters. It doesn't have to be over the top silly in a way that entertains Vince McMahon. And it feels like across the board, it is still that. And when you see when you tune into this and you see Santino Marella, and obviously, I don't know if he owns that name or if they allow that to be done because it was a WWE created name, but he's a WWE guy doing the same WWE gimmick. His daughter that turned on him apparently is the daughter he was with at OVW when his daughter slapped him the same way you did, actually, now that I think about it.
There you go. He spends his life getting slapped. But
you know, again, if it was him, even with that name, and it had been an evolution of the character, without saying I was a comedy figure for a long time, all of a sudden it's the real guy. Obviously, he could talk. Just the real guy being the commissioner, it'd be one thing, but it's a comedy commissioner. Why not just have Jameson as the commissioner? Why not have a bushwhacker as the commissioner? You know what I mean? It's just like, what the fuck? How are you supposed to take this company seriously when they got this guy as the commissioner, and then again, the bootleg Carrie Silken coming out there later on as the president looks as sad as could be.
Well, and that's where I was going with this, because again, for formatting and for a new network debut and a new audience, not only do they present, okay, this guy is a goddamn complete imbecile, and he's also the director of authority, so this is kind of a comedy show anyway, and then he introduces his new assistant, and she comes out, it's Cruella DeVille from the WWE. Oh, Sonya Deville, out she comes. I'd missed her. She can talk, but she comes out in a Matador miniskirt. It looked very nice. One of the only star-looking people on his show. Gave a big rah-rah speech and put all the fans over how great everything was. And then Said the only thing that TNA doesn't need is you, Santino Marella. And she turned heel on Santino and then had a meltdown on him and the fans. So on the network debut, we've met the fucking general manager or director of authority, whatever they're calling it on this program. And then he's introduced his new assistant and she's turned on him. And then she introduces a new girl she's just signed. And and please welcome. And then she never says the girl's name. Please welcome. And it's like they cut her mic. And out comes a girl and the announcers say, oh, that's Elena Black. So did they just do 3 months of shit in that 10-minute segment?
3 months of shit. Yeah, shit. Quite literally.
We meet the guy. He introduces his assistant. She turns fucking heel on him and the fans and introduces a new talent in 10 minutes.
And by the way, she's only known from being on WWE TV. She's not using that name. So it's a brand new name for her. Going back to what she was doing on SmackDown, being a commissioner character. I don't know, again, whether she could talk or not, that's not something I want more of. Like, I wouldn't say, hey, someone signed Saraya so she could be a commissioner. Like, I don't want that. And then she brings out Elena Black, she was one of those NXT girls let go. I think, was she Cora Jade or something? Where, like, all the pervert fans are like, oh, she's great. And then, like, she's just there. Yeah.
Well, that's what Cora Jade, Corey Apple, something like that. But and Sonya is Daria Ray, Daria Earl Ray, Andrew Windsor Mountbatten. I don't know what the fuck, but that's the point. Is nobody recognizes the names. They all know who she is, but she can't call herself that. But they've sped through weeks of story development in one segment, and yeah, and everybody, it's the WWE, cutting room floor here. But I'll tell you what, I was about ready to be fed up, but I said, no, I promised Brian, but the next one just about broke me. And I think that's what turned the tide on the hot crowd. It was like a bucket of ice water on their hot, throbbing manhood. This could have been the worst thing of the night. The personal concierge of what is this elegance brand thing is apparently these three girls with this fucking twit that's their personal concierge is the elegance brand, is what I'm gathering from trying to pick this up as we go. They opened in the ring and the guy introduced himself as the personal concierge. He's doing the talking. There's three girls in the ring. Jesus Christ, what a lineup this was. And a giant, what looked like a chicken with his back to the but a big white feathery creature with his back to the camera, and a guy in a green shorts and a Hawaiian shirt outfit with purple hair, who was introduced as Perez Hilton, not Paris Hilton. They wouldn't have put Paris Hilton in the ring with these shovel-faced wannabes. Good Lord, they put their poster in prisons to cure the sex offenders. But this Perez Hilton has not been on television in 15 years, has he? And he shouldn't have been on this. They're making a big whoop-de-doo about fashion or whatever, and Perez Hilton sucks, and it's very amateur. And then the concierge says they're soon to be crowned the tag team champions. So we're going to introduce our new addition, the greatest makeover ever, Mr. Elegance. And the chicken throws off his cape, and that's Mr. Elegance. And the crowd is fucking farting at all this. And this guy can't talk. And he looks like a fucking douchebag. And they're getting the cat calls and booing. And supposedly he was like a fat guy last week, but they pulled a switch, but they expect us to believe it's the same guy. This looked like one of those fucking sketches on Fridays that went south. At this point, I quit. I said, I'm going to give it one more segment. Because then they played music and two other girls came out who are the inspiration. And I was inspired to skip that whole thing and say I would give the show one more segment before I gave up completely because this was driving me out of my mind. Brian, what do you think about the Elegant Angels there?
Those specifically are Ash by Elegance, who's the former, whatever she was in WWE. That's one of the ones we hear from people. How could you not like Ash by Elegance? Or you have to see the... No, I don't. It's not good. None of this is good. This is bad glow.
Well, they didn't do anything anyway. They were standing there wearing stupid outfits and little teeny hats.
And then you see the segments. This was glow. This was bad glow wrestling. And it's not good. And if someone really wants to make a difference with a wrestling company, don't have a women's division.
Yeah, there you go.
Seriously, just someone have a company without a women's division. Horrible. This whole show is horrible. TNA is horrible. Let's talk about the rest of it.
All right. All right. Well, I said I'm going to give it one more segment, right? So I zip ahead. And guess what? The next segment, Santino was back, who introduced two more girls with Gold Club stripper gimmicks and a choreographed dance entrance. And then they came out and this is on fast forward, by the way. I'm watching this, and two other girls came out and signed a contract to wrestle. So I said, I'll give it one more chance. Let's just give me something. The next segment was the System on stage. The System was three guys wearing T-shirts and jeans and matching green jackets, a girl and Moose, who I recognize have even met once before in the past. And the announcer said they have been the dominant group in TNA. I was like, okay, is this like the Four Horsemen? What the fuck? But apparently they're the baby faces. Even the girl talked first. She shouldn't talk at all. She should be seen and not heard also. But apparently they are the baby faces. And then, to my shock and surprise, one of them is Eddie Edwards. I know Eddie Edwards. Didn't recognize him for a minute. Different physique, different hairstyle. Haven't seen him in 15 years. But as they're talking, he turned to the guy next to him, and they're having a match. And the guy in the Dirty Dango T-shirt, I don't know who he is. Oh. I didn't hear them say his name.
He used to be Fandango in WWE.
Oh, Christ.
He was a dancer.
I know. I remember that.
Who wanted you to pronounce his name correctly? Fandango.
Well, he's there. And even though they're apparently all friends and baby faces, he's retiring at their next pay-per-view. And it's going to be a match against Eddie Edwards for reasons that I don't know were explained and don't really give a shit to begin with. But here's the thing. Okay, this Dango fellow, he starts talking. I'm grateful to finish my career in TNA. It's the best locker room I've ever been in. Like anybody gives a shit about that, right? And thanks for being a great crowd. Okay, that's a babyface statement. And then he says, my last match is Saturday against my good friend Eddie Edwards. Next week, I'm going to be here to announce my replacement in this group. But in the meantime, he turns to Eddie and he actually says this. They wrote some stuff for me. This motherfucker. If I could have just put a goddamn spear through the TV screen. They wrote some stuff for me, but I'm going to tear up when I tell you this. I love you like a brother, et cetera, but I ain't going out like a punk. And then they just stood there, and it looked like for a moment they were going to tongue kiss. And I'm confused. Why? What is fucking going on with these people? But they wrote some stuff for me. He better be glad Saturday's his last match, because I'd fire him on Sunday.
And that's the top babyface stable.
Yes, who look like a bunch of fucking goofs. And Moose didn't even speak.
No, Moose has talent. I've seen Moose wrestle.
I know he's the goddamn star.
Yeah, he's got talent.
So anyway, then, well, give me any of your thoughts before we talk about the big return and the huge pop.
The system promo. You know, I had not thought about what has happened to Fandango. I forgot all about him. Took me a few seconds after seeing him to realize that's who it was. He's having his big retirement match.
Why is he fighting his friend in a retirement match?
The whole thing is, you know, again, there are issues. I just want to say there are issues I have with TNA. Some of them are about talent. But by and large, it's the creative. It's the tone of the show. It's the feel of the show. This is not a current thing under Carlos Silva. It's something that goes back from Scott D'Amore to Jeff Jarrett to Bruce Pritchard to Russo. There's just something that smells like death about TNA. And I think more than ever before, even with the AMC deal, I've said it before, it's wrestling purgatory. It's a bunch of guys waiting to see if they're going to be scooped up to go to heaven or if they're going to get stuck in hell. That's all TNA is.
If you want to go to heaven, you got to raise a little hell.
Will Uncle Paul, St. Paul reach out his hand and take me with him? Or will I stay here? It's just, it's not a good show. Nothing feels fresh. But there's more show.
Yes, there is. In this next part, and you talked about Carlos Silva. And all through the show, that's the one thing that I guess that we haven't made the point that before we get any further is that it's been so over the top. AMC, how great it is. They introduced the non-celebrity celebrities. And everybody's mentioned it in the promos, and they've got the people to chant it. And it's not, it passed the level to where that it was, oh, isn't it great? We're on this wonderful new network and we've got this great partnership to, oh my God, thank these people came along and sent us a lifeline. We've been floating in the fucking ocean for so long and the sharks were circling type of attitude. It was it not that they went so far with it? It was like, my God, life and death gratitude rather than a major announcement of expansion. This is the way I took it.
Well, there may be a reason for that.
They didn't have to do that. I mean, on their own show. But then here's this Carlos Silva fella. And I was thinking Carlos Santana. I don't know why, but he looks like some random guy, as you said, like Carrie Silkin's brother-in-law. And he introduced, I swear, I'm not lying, Dixie Carter. And as soon as she walks through the curtain, the people started booing. And they continued booing. They didn't give a shit, and they didn't want to listen to her. And she's trying to do oh, isn't this great speech? And thank you for all being here. And thank you. Who was watching AEW or AEW? Who was watching TNA 20 years ago or whatever, that glorious time? And they were just going, boo, fuck you. We don't want to see you. We don't like you. And she didn't sell it. She was waving and everything.
She even said, she's like, this is a really emotional night for me. Why?
Why?
You have nothing to do with this.
but what, emotional in one way to see I own this when it had a bigger TV show and more viewers than it has now, and I bungled it. And now it's a miracle that it's been resurrected, and I'm out here for you to boo me and remind me of how bad a job I did the first time around. So maybe that did make her emotional. But I'm just, and before we analyze this, she did the speech, and then Bubba Ray Dudley's music played, and out he comes, and they have a stare down, and she's holding her back like one thing that she ever did in her life that people remember her for. But it was like a tense moment, according to the announcers, that is he going to power bomb her again? Everybody, no, nobody gives a shit. Hardly anybody remembers that, and it's still the most well-remembered thing she ever did.
That's what they should have done. It would have been great. No one would have expected.
God.
No one would have expected. Oh, they're going to reunite. Oh no, he's going to do it again.
They would have carried Bubba Ray Dudley out of the building on their shoulders if he had, but instead they hugged, and then he got heat for hugging her, and she left, and he went to the color position. But I'm just. She has, as far as I know, no interest, no financial. I'm not talking about she's not interested, has no financial interest, no ownership anymore at this point. Does she? Does she still have 2% where they have to acknowledge her existence?
I don't know.
What did they think kind of response that they were going to get when they brought her out?
Well, that's it.
If these are the people that like TNA, and that are glad that TNA is prospering, she'd be the biggest heel in the history of the company, besides maybe Shitstain, for damaging it and getting it kicked off TV and fucking stars leaving. So why would they think it was a good idea if she has nothing to do with the company anymore to bring her back? It's not like a beloved talent from the past. It's the stumbling block that sidelined him for 10 years. Her family's money saved the company, but her constant involvement and interference is what led to its not demise, but purgatory. And remember when her old man flew JR to Dallas to talk about him running the company, but Dixie she has still had to be figured in because it hurt her feelings. When Jeff Jarrett had the country music star that wanted to buy the thing. Oh, but you got to keep Dixie on in some kind of role. It hurt her feelings. When Billy Corgan thought that he had bought the fucking thing.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yes, the whole idea was to get Dixie out of it.
Yeah.
Everybody that's ever tried to fucking do anything for the company and buy it or do anything to improve it, Dixie was the stumbling block. And finally, when she had no choice but to give it up, when Anthem ended up having advanced them more money than they could pay back, and they got it. So she has been the hang up in every transaction up until then to try to help the company prosper. So they bring her. Why? Because it was Dallas. Does she live there now? Was she down visiting Mama and Pawpaw? Or what?
They should have introduced them so they can get booed too.
I don't know that. Has anybody ever even seen a picture of them? I know they don't want to show their face now. But do you think she called up and asked because she's a wannabe Real Housewife of something, and she always wanted to be on TV? Did she call them up and offer to show up? I don't know. Who knows?
Do you think she should have ended her promo with, "I'll see you at the bar later, boys"?
Yeah, who's going to pour the wine?
It's a puzzling decision because she was not a popular figure. And everyone knew that she wasn't just an on-air character. Everyone knew she actually owned the company and controlled its fortunes and misfortunes. You could blame Russo for so much, but at the end of the day, she was the one who said yes to everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it all goes back to her. And every mistake the company made.
She was somewhat of a hindrance even in times when Russo was not around.
You know, you say people only remember the Bubba Ray Dudley spot. I remember her holding on to Hulk Hogan's leg when he walked off the show, never to come back. Yeah. But yeah, it's a puzzling decision because there's no way she would get cheered. It'd be one thing if she just came out and waved or sat in Hollywood Row with the boxer and the little guy and whoever else was there.
And the old gardener that starred in something. I don't know what
the influencers, all the random. They're like, here are some wrestling influencers. Look, we see lots of things that people send us. I've never seen any of these people before in my life. I don't know who
I've
they're
never heard of any of the names.
Yeah,
I don't know who they're. Yeah, they don't have a lot of sway over a lot of people.
So to bring Dixie back, it is a cool moment that the fans get to boo her. I mean, maybe it was for that. Maybe they realized we got to do something for the fans. Let's give them Dixie to boo. But you have to expect that. I mean, I don't think anyone reasonably could have thought, oh, they'll give a polite applause to this woman. Again, everyone's looking at AMC right now as this big success. I look at it the other way. This company has fallen so low that this is the big moment for them, and it didn't have to. Because TNA was a lot more popular 15 years ago than it is now.
And to be honest with you, I think that's part of the problem they had in this show also, in that they relied, especially in the confrontation between AJ Styles and Kazarian, and we got one more match we'll talk about in a minute, but they relied on everybody remembering what happened in TNA 15 years ago also, back when it was more popular, instead of bothering to remind us first. They had too many people and too much shit going on with trying to explain too much or not explaining enough, and just all over the place, and just this visually ridiculous nonsense, instead of starting to try to ease us into the goddamn thing so that we could be able to retain some of this. And some of it was shit you wouldn't want to ever think about again. So, but yeah, Dixie was not ever going to be popular by any means, and I don't know why they wanted to. It gained nothing for him to bring her out, and it was kind of embarrassing that everybody booed her. So I don't know. You know what would have been better, Brian? Well, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I would like to know what would be better, because I think maybe that's what I was going to talk about.
Well, I know what would have been better is if back in the old days when TNA was much more popular as a business and a brand than they are today, if they'd have had a good partner to help them get to the next level, not Dixie Carter, not some wannabe Real Housewife of Hendersonville, Tennessee, that was just always wanting to be on camera, but a partner that would give them a platform, that would give them experience, that would give them a heavy hitter in the business world to take them to the promised land and show them how to build their dream business. That's what they should have had. Do you agree with me there, Brian?
I agree with you there, Brian.
Well, in that case, then you'll agree with me that Shopify are the people that should have done that thing there that needed done. Because if Jeff Jarrett had Shopify in his corner instead of having to go to some off-brand public relations twit, why then Shopify would have given him all the tools that he needed to build his dream store. He could have chosen from hundreds of beautiful templates that customized and matched his brand. He could have used the built-in AI tools to write the product descriptions and the booking instead of the tool that he was using to do the booking. And the marketing. He could have created the email and social campaigns that reached the customers instead of these off-brand interns straight out of college that Dixie would hire because she could pay them cheap. And as TNA grew, that's right, more money coming in, see, all the time. As TNA grew, Brian, Shopify would have grown with it. Whereas Dixie Carter just grew stale, tired, and bored, Shopify grows like a giant mutant carbuncle on you. It's part of you. And you expand with it until you're an all-encompassing, star-eating blob with a gravitational pull. And that's the way that you slowly creep over the landscape and take over the world. All with Shopify.
I don't know. Again, Shopify is a great partner. We, of course, work with Shopify for ArcadianVanguard.com. And everyone out there, if you have a business and you're online, if you need easy commerce, easy checkout, get your products everywhere, Shopify is the partner for you. Professionally.
Well, that's right.
Yes.
You can handle more orders, expand to new markets. Poland will fall.
That's not how it works. No.
Well, you'll be expanding and other people better get the heck out of the way. Because Shopify is a steamroller waiting to mow you down and take your money and give it to the people on their side.
Wait, what?
So be on their side.
That's not how it works, and I don't know who the they or you or whatever in that situation is.
It's rolling down the hill. It's a giant boulder rolling down the hill, gathering moss and speed as it goes. Be swept up in it or be crushed by it. In 2026, stop waiting and start selling with Shopify. Sign up right now for your $1 per month trial period and start selling today at shopify.com/JCE. Shopify.com/JCE. That's where you get the $1 a month trial period using that code. And then world dominance is within your grasp as long as Shopify's got a finger in your pie.
Not exactly how we should put it, but Shopify is the partner you could rely on. We do, and you can as well. One more time, Jim, that wonderful promo code for a great deal for the listeners.
For the finger in their pie, Shopify.com/JCE. Well, we still had the main event of this thing to go, and it hadn't taken a lot of their gravy to go all over my plate. I was not in any way looking forward to anything else, but I thought Santana and Frankie Kazarian, it's got to be better than what they've done so far, and it was, but that's faint praise. Both these guys, they're in good shape. They look like athletes. They tried. They worked hard. Kazarian has plenty of experience, is excellent in the ring. Santana ain't bad. But this show was snake bit. And I mean, I didn't pay a lot of attention to the match, to be honest with you, because I was just done with this thing by that point. They did a bunch of modern style shit, but again, they looked more professional than everybody else on the show. But then the goddamn finish just fell apart. And it was the point where I was like, oh, geez, I feel bad for these guys. They were going to do a deal where Santana almost ran into the referee and they stopped and they were supposed to look at each other so that Kazarian could come with the drop kick. But they botched that spot to where he didn't really almost hit the referee, and then and they weren't in the right place. So the referee had to look at him like, why did you almost hit me? And he had to stand there and get in the right place while saying, I didn't really. And then Kazarian went for the drop kick, and I guess Santana was supposed to move, or maybe he was supposed to drop kick Santana and Santana would hit the referee, but
I don't know.
Kazarian goes for a drop kick. Santana doesn't move. Kazarian puts his foot right past. I mean, it was a great shot right past Santana's chest and kicked the referee. But from the camera shot, it looked like Kazarian kicked the Santana and the referee flew off the other side of Santana. And they both fell on either side of him and he was just standing there. And I'm like, what? So then now the referee's down. So then they start doing other stuff, and suddenly Kazarian gives Santana a Canadian destroyer, and Santana just pops up to his feet without selling it and hits his big clothesline and covers him. 1, 2, and Kazarian kicks out, and the referee counts 3. And then they just went on and ignored that he had counted 3 because in a minute, the clothesline's going to be the finish. He counted 3 on the first clothesline. They just pop up. They go for another thing, which is supposed to be a roll up into some kind of ankle lock, but they just fell in a heap on that. And then Santana hit another clothesline that didn't look as good as the first one. 1, 2, 3.
New champion.
even the new champion, but even them, it was a mess. And they had the referee shouldn't. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, you always say the referee to count. Not when the guy kicks out. He kicked out. The guy counted on the first clothesline instead of the second one. But when they were walking through this thing, I don't know why the second one was needed. They had it. It looked good. That was going to be the finish anyway. They should have just, but they had to pop up and do more. And that was the climax of one of the rottenest wrestling television programs that I have seen since we've been doing this. And that's why I have to make a public apology to AEW as an entity and as a television show. I said that AEW was the worst television wrestling show with a budget on the air in the world, and I take that back. This has a budget of some description, and it made me want to see some AEW. So for the people who say I never apologize, never admit when I was wrong, I just did, and I apologize to AEW. You're still rotten, but you're not anywhere near this rotten. So I do apologize.
We do get feedback often after a Dynamite review. Well, why don't you give TNA a chance? Why don't you give NXT a chance? Why don't you give Ring of Honor? Like all these different things.
We watched NXT and that was insufferable.
NXT it's kind of similar to TNA. It's like TNA if everyone was young and had a future. It's like everyone may be going somewhere still. But it's still childish Vince McMahon style wrestling. When people tell you, oh, you didn't give the girls a fair chance, and you watch it, and it's like girls who have been taught how to go through the motions, but have no idea how to work, had no idea how to react to a crowd. And it's not even their fault. I mean, it's just not the way they're taught, not the world they're exposed to, and they don't get the matches that other people would have gotten in the past. The booking's childish. Gimmicks, I don't know, the gimmicks in the 80s, as much complaining as people do about them, guys were either committed enough to make it work or it just worked. You see, like, the NXT fans that like the Tony D'Angelo stuff, I see this, I'm like, this is the silliest gimmick I've ever seen. Sillier than anything, sillier than Outback Jack. Like, this is just silly. But it's like that everywhere. I said it's an infection everywhere. It's different degrees of Vince McMahon style television, Vince McMahon style commentary, Vince McMahon's humor, Vince McMahon style segments. AEW feels more lively because everyone just does whatever the fuck they want. And when you watch a show that's not like that, you kind of do, I don't know if appreciate's the right word, but you appreciate it a little more. I'll say whatever you want to say about AEW. AEW is worlds better than TNA. And for every fucking person that gets in touch and says TNA is better than AEW, you should give it a chance. It's not. It's not. The TV show isn't better. The roster isn't better. Not that they don't have some talent on that roster. It's nice to see Mike Santana getting a chance because he never got that in AEW. But AEW Dynamite is better than TNA Impact every week, I'm sure. Because this was a bad show, and this was their big debut. You would think this would be the show that, the Raw after WrestleMania has to be good. At least someone new will come out.
Do you think, did they try too hard? Is it not normally like this? Or are we just, again, trying to give them the... Every time that somebody says, oh, watch this promotion, and we watch it, and it's a crummy show where it's just our timing.
Of all the different wrestling companies out there, that do wrestling or wrestling, they either do wrestling TV or on the internet even. No one just says, how can we do this so that it's serious? How can we do this so the commentators have credibility? How can we do this so that even if we have extraordinary characters that you don't normally meet in everyday life,
we're not telling you they're bullshit before you ever even see them. They're committed to what they're doing. The booking makes sense. We have good guys against bad guys. We have logical fucking progressions of stipulations and matches. We concentrate on who we want to get over and who we just want on the card because we have that plan for the next 3 to 6 months before we start. Things like that.
Precisely. Instead, we get everyone doing what WWE does. You come out your entranceway, you do your special pose, like you're on a fucking runway or something, and then you walk to the ring. The other person does that. No one has a fucking hometown or whatever. Whatever WWE does, everyone else will copy. The commentators are so disingenuous, you don't believe anything they're saying. They just seem like they're performing as commentators. And the booking, and just everything. The Ash by Elegance segment, what the fuck was that?
They're little hats, the little hats they wore.
And I appreciate the best of women's wrestling. And there are women's wrestlers who I say good things about before they've really done much. Everyone's like, oh, you must think they're good looking. No, I actually think they have talent. But besides all that, there's way too much fucking women's wrestling on American wrestling TV. There's never been a sign that there's a demand that meets the quantity that's being put out there. Just nonstop segments in women's wrestling. Give them their own show. Treat it well. Book it well. Put money behind it. But don't flood every American wrestling TV show with women's matches. There's no demand.
I demand something.
What's that?
I demand they do what you just said because I'm sick. I'm sick. I'm fed up, Brian. If I only had time. Imagine what Thunderbolt would say.
But you know, that's the thing. Like everyone, whenever we talk about Mid-South or Mid-Atlantic or Florida, you know, you're talking about Bill Watson, Boyd Pierce, you're talking about Bob Caudle, and even David Crockett, talking about Gordon Soley. No one condescended you. Like, no one talked down to you. It never felt like that. And the host of the show, and I use the word host.
With David Crockett, you could feel like he was talking up to you.
Exactly.
I fuck with David. I like David.
But they were hosts. Like, they were the glue of the entire show. They held the microphones for the interviews. They explained what happened. They didn't go usually over the top for baby faces or heels, even if they called out heels when they did dastardly things. But you don't have that. You just have a bunch of screaming heads doing WWE style commentary. And none of these shows connect. One of these shows could be a serious wrestling show. If everyone's doing the same kind of adults acting like they're trying out for the high school play wrestling stuff, wrestling scenes, skits, someone go the other way because there is a demand. But whatever. This show sucked. TNA sucks. For everyone who says TNA's better than AEW, AEW kicks TNA's ass.
Oh, now wait a minute. You're turning on our principles even here. Well, I will say, but goddamn, AEW kicking TNA's ass is like a paraplegic taking advantage of an embryo, isn't it?
You know, Tony has little periods where it happens. And we'll see what happens now in terms of the talent they have and what they're going to be able to have access to going forward. But it just never is outright stale. And TNA, it felt stale. It felt like it had been out on the counter too long.
Was that the smell that I was detecting wafting through the breeze?
AEW, I have no idea what's going to end up on my plate. I have no idea what I'm going to eat. I have no idea how I'm going to get home. With TNA, it's not good.
You'd rather go on a hunger strike.
Yeah, not good.
Well, Brian, what is good, before we go any further, in the Arcadian Vanguard Network world of classic wrestling podcasts this week that we can listen to as a palate cleanser?
That's right. Before we get to other things we hate, let's talk a little bit about the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, wherever you find your favorite podcasts, of course, on Twitter at Superpodcast or on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. Each and every day, get the wrestling news, get your wrestling news direct from thewrestlingnews.com, wherever you find your favorite podcast. No opinion, no clickbait, no paywall, no star ratings. Just the news from the Wrestling News. I want to make mention of Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon. The NWA Champion Series continues. George Shire joins the show to talk about Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. Hear that today. SUAWpod.com. Or look for Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon wherever you find your favorite podcast. And on Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam, 40 years ago in 1986. Hear what was happening. McAdamPod.com or Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam wherever you find your favorite podcast. And of course, the 605 Superpodcast, The Mothership! That's a new one. I'm losing my voice. That's kind of how I sound at the moment. Go through the archive, 605pod.com, or wherever you find your favorite podcast. My voice really is going. The Mothership.
The Mothership. All right. Well, actually, where I usually say I'm dreading this, now it's like, well, this may pick us up a little bit. To play us out, Johnny, it'll take us up a little bit with AEW is not looking. I can't actually remember after the last debacle we just talked about, the TNA thing. I can't remember what happened. I have my notes here. I'll refresh myself.
Stop banging the table. You keep punching the table.
Well, I'm goddamn vehement about this. I don't remember.
Can I say something about the Dynamite you don't remember before we start this review that you'll recall once we start going through your notes? And I'm sure it won't be as pleasant as you think.
It seemed like it wasn't as brutal an experience, but go ahead.
I loved the way Dynamite looked this week. It was a theater. So as opposed to being in an arena where you have an empty side because you're not selling those seats and that's the camera side.
Like AMC and TNA showed us.
Yeah, well, this one, there was an empty side necessitated by the fact that it's a theater. So everyone was on the one side and it made the crowd look great. It looked like it went back endlessly.
Yes.
And the way it was lit, I loved the way Dynamite looked this week.
I would love them to have room in something like this to put a few seats on the other side of, instead of just having the ring right up against the screen and everything. But small complaint, but I agree with you that it looked expansive and massive. What they were in Phoenix and it's a theater, but I didn't jot down the name of the place. They had they only had like 3,000 people like usual, but it looked massive in that respect. What do they usually put in that fucking theater in Phoenix?
In CinemaScope. I don't know. I don't know what they do there, but it looked great.
Yes, and unlike TNA, which had half a building's crowd and showed us both sides when the crowd was only on one side, they had a crowd on one side and it looked great. And I don't have any idea of, that big of a theater in Phoenix. I wonder what normally plays there. Possibly they have a local drama society that's very popular.
How the West was won.
But anyway, it did look good and again made it look like a thing without. They didn't have to shoot around empty seats because they only had the theater setting rather than an entire arena. So it
looked great.
A plus.
It looked great and it looked different. You don't see that look. You'll never see that look from WWE more than likely. Maybe from a TNA, but AEW, if they can run theaters and get that look, that may be something to look towards. Because then the argument about, well, there's no one on the other side, it doesn't even matter anymore.
Because there is no other side.
Yeah, and it looked great. I thought it looked great.
But here the problem is, if they're going to run buildings like this, they might better, I don't know, produce their matches or walk through them or tell the guys don't fight in the building in the crowd because it's so dark you can't see what's going on. That their own self-inflicted wounds, like TNA's was showing the empty seats, was as soon as they start the first match, Darby and Pac, and Darby can't help himself, but Darby jumpstarts it with a dive to the floor during the introductions. They went over the rail. They fought up into the crowd and all the way to the back of the building, and they had no lights. Did they not know they were going there? Did they just, oh shit, we'll just fight to the back of the building on live television? Because if they knew where they were going, why didn't they light it? And if it wasn't lit and they didn't know they were going, why were they allowed to go there? All of those questions.
None of those answers. We don't know. I mean, it's AEW, so the lack of production wouldn't be surprising, but you would be kind of surprised at the opening match with Darby that they wouldn't know they were going to do something like that. I don't have an answer for you.
Well, anyway, so they fight in the back of the building in the dark. They go back to ringside, still didn't get in the ring. Pac belly to belly overhead suplex Darby onto the sharp edges of the steel stairs. And so they fought for 5 minutes, did that move, then rolled in the ring, and the referee rang the bell to start the match.
That was the first big laugh of the night for me when the bell rang. After all of that on the floor and all the beatings and everything that happened, when the bell rang, I laughed.
And then the hospitalization angle, and then, okay, he says he's all right. So anyway, I was done at that point. That's why, you know, the main event on this show is MJF and Bandito, and I do have a variety of thoughts, but I was, you know, more or less suffering through much of the rest of this. But they went 10 minutes after that, and then bumped the referee, had a run in, and then Darby put the chair on Pac's leg. Actually, he put it on the wrong leg first, and Pac had to say, switch, wrong leg, switch it.
That's right.
And then Pac lays there not moving so that Darby can climb up on a top rope and coffin drop the chair, which one would think there's another hospitalization angle. That's the end of it. But no, then he shoved the chair out of the ring and got a sharpshooter, and the referee revived and saw Pac tapping out. Why? They can't, the guys, Darby Allin, again, has the unique, weird charisma, but he just can't be trusted with any kind of position because you never know what stupid shit he's going to do, and he might paralyze himself at any minute. And at this point, it's just taken away from, I don't know what it's taken away from, but nothing can hurt this little freak. So why should anybody else sell anything? At this point, it's just, it's comedy.
Well, beyond the selling aspect of it, in terms of the actual injury part of it, that's the thing that kind of pulls you into the Darby matches, but it's also the thing that makes you wince and look away and not want to see any more of the Darby matches. There's always...
Well, I wince and look away before he does the horrible bumps.
There's always at least one horrible bump. I mean, when was the last time you saw Darby and there wasn't one, oh shit, moment? And I don't mean like in like a big, like, oh, it's WrestleMania, oh shit. I mean like, oh, he's fucked
oh shit,
up.
he's fucked up.
Yeah. And it happened with the stairs here. That looked bad. That would take a bad idea. Who pitched that? I know who pitched the idea. Who said...
He did.
Yeah, who said we should do this? Why did they do that? Again, just on the chance something goes wrong and his neck snaps. It's not.
Do they tell anybody beforehand that they're going to do some of these things? And if so, do they then listen when Tony could tell them? I don't know whether anybody else has the power around there to tell them that they're stupid and take that out. In a normal company, it would be whoever the producer was. But Tony could tell them, what are you fucking doing? Just, you're stupid. But Tony's the same. He's got live action figures. I mean, when I was 11, using the fucking Viking Warrior and the goddamn G.I. Joe with Kung Fu grip to have wrestling matches because they didn't have action figures. He's got live action figures, and he thinks that all of his can do the same things all of mine could do.
See, that's why the G.I. Joes of the 80s were the best, because they could do everything. They could literally lock up and you start doing every move, and they're still the best. The other issue is maybe best exemplified by the Death Riders, although it's a overall thing with AEW, especially as the heel stables have grown. I think the Callis family has 14 members now. AEW fans grown at a run-in like no other wrestling fan ever. And, that is something to be said. That AEW fans expect quality wrestling, quality matches.
Why?
You know what I'm saying?
Why would you expect it after all this time? Why suddenly would they start doing that now?
They expect work rate. So
there you go.
And they were spoiled the first few years with the lack of run-ins and the lack of ref bumps. But the way the fans groaned when the Death Riders got involved, that was telling. It's telling that that's how the AEW fans react to this stuff. And they should cut down on it. It can't be every Death Riders match they run in.
See, that's the problem is you can't never have run-ins, never have disqualifications, never have interference, you can't never have that. And you also can't have it all the fucking time. And they've gone from one extreme to the other and shit the bed in both places. But nevertheless, you say to yourself, after an opening match like that, maybe we can have one of the big top stars of AEW come in and save the day and give a professional performance. And up next was Hangnail Adam Page against Brian Keith. And of course, this is Samoa Joe's told Brian Keith, fuck up Adam Page, and blah, blah, blah. The bell rang and they botched the first spot. Big Bill still with Brian Keith for what reason, I have no idea.
Yeah, why wouldn't Samoa Joe hire him?
We've forgotten about him with somebody that could actually do something somewhere, it looks like, but not there. But anyway, Big Bill is on the apron and Page is staring at him and Brian Keith is going to run from behind to clothesline Adam Page in the back of the head, but Adam Page is going to duck. And I bet you that Brian Keith was going to continue on a couple feet and run into old Big Bill. And then they were going to start the match. But somehow, when Brian Keith ran with the clothesline and Adam Page bent over to duck, because Keith is coming from behind, Brian Keith tripped and fell down over Adam Page's body. Did you see that?
Of course I saw that, yes.
And then Big Bill stood there and looked at both of them and just jumped down on the floor. And the match was on. How could he have tripped and fallen over a man that just bent over? So they went 10 minutes. Adam Page is supposed to be the big babyface, big main event star, just trying to win the world title, and it takes him 10 minutes to beat this fucking fellow. And Bill interfered, and Swerve came down and glommed him, and then Page hit the buckshot 1, 2, 3. And then, any comments on this match before we go into this next soliloquy?
I mean, the match was what it was. We haven't seen Brian Keith or Big Bill in forever. I guess we could say this one final time now that it looks like he may do something else. Did Chris Jericho do anything to help these two guys?
Oh, Jesus.
They were tied to Chris Jericho. Did it elevate them? Are they seen better off today than they were when Big Bill was teaming up with Ricky Starks? I don't think so. Why wouldn't Samoa Joe hire Big Bill to be the bounty hunter? Even though Brian Keith's nickname is the bounty hunter, I get it, but Big Bill's like 7 feet fucking tall.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you hire him? He's all jacked up. And secondly, it's one thing for MJF or, an MJF type character to hire a bounty hunter. to stop Adam Page. Why Samoa Joe? It doesn't fit, I don't think.
Well, because they had to have the match, and there has to be an angle behind the match, so they can go 10 minutes and have interference and fucking Anyway, then Page got to microphone and growled the same promo, and then Swerve cut a promo on MJF, says, "We're coming after you," and then music played, and it was Kenny! The return of our friend Twinkle Toes McFingerbang. He has arrived, and his douchiness is here. And he did it seemed long, I don't know how long it was. The promo, the phone sex voice, the breathiness. He's going for the belt too. He's going to have to beat a few people. It's all their baby faces. And all their baby faces appear to be idiots. And one of these guys, at least at one point, didn't they hospitalize Kenny? And one of these guys, one of the people that hospitalized Kenny that he never gets even for? I know Swerve burned Page's house down, or Page burned Swerve, all that other shit.
Well, Page and Kenny were partners, and then that was when Page's alcoholism really got out of hand, and it really hurt their friendship, I believe.
There you go.
Was Kenny laid up by the Callis family? I'm not sure, actually. Now that you say this, I don't remember.
I believe he was at one point.
Whoever was in the Callis family at that point. Yeah, because half the members of the Callis family at that point are probably gone. It's replaced by 20 other guys.
All their baby faces are looking sideways at each other and having an issue with each other because they all want the world title. And all their heels are arguing with each other later on in the show because they want the world tag title. So the baby faces are usually only mad at baby faces, and the heels are usually only mad at heels, and they wonder why nobody gets over around here. So Page said, "May the best man win," and he left. And Swerve stared at Kenny, and he left. And then Don and his phallus family came out. And I'm like, what the Jesus Christ. And then he cut a promo on Kenny and challenged him for a match with Josh Alexander. And Kenny again meandered around in a mealy-mouthed, milquetoast way to accept the match. Okay, I'll face him tonight. And then Don said, "No, next week." And I'm like, Jesus Christ, nobody will care by then. At least they've got him up a little bit here. And then the heels left, and Kenny went on more like he was talking in his sleep, and then blew the kisses and bidded us adieu and good night and good luck and bang bang. What good God, nobody would stop and it never ended. Am I correct in this?
You are correct in this, yes.
So, again, it's the same bunch of people just arguing with random people all the time. But at least they didn't show the empty seats. Did you like the way that they settled our discussion on whether MJF should use old Jonathan Cruz as his stooge or flunky or whatever? Did you like the way they put that out of its misery?
How disappointing was this? Not that I expected this guy to be, the next Count Rossi or anything. But
that's a deep cut.
He's been good in his role. Thank you very much. He's been good in his role. We literally were just talking about the idea of him being more involved with MJF, being maybe his valet. This guy got away with dressing like Abraham Lincoln in Mexico. And then they immediately killed all of that. For no reason. I mean, I don't think it helps anyone here. But why would they kill all that like that in this one segment?
I don't have any idea, but Brody King comes out and Cruz is out there in street clothes and he just beats him up and beats him in some kind of little match there. But again, why do that in week 2? And why not at least get something out of it by having MJF sacrifice him or whatever? But he's done now. It's meaningless now. MJF, if they wanted to put any interest in this, MJF should be the one that abused him. And he should interfere on MJF's behalf or try to do good things for MJF. But any retribution that comes back on him should have been because MJF sacrificed him to get out of the way of harm. And then over a period of time, the people would have got behind this guy to want him to break free. But now that they just beat him up and fucking stood on him and wiped their feet on him, who gives a shit?
Yeah, this was a bad move because you actually had a character that was at least a little bit interesting that you had time to do something with, and 10 steps back here. Besides that, what are your thoughts on the push that it seems they're giving Brody King? They've had a few videos on TV of him lately. They're actually doing vignettes. What do you think of him getting a push here?
I mean, if he looks like he's giant, but he looks like shit. But if he had some type of gimmick where he was supposed to look like shit, that would, it wouldn't be bad. He can do some stuff, but he's always in the middle of the children to where, and the thing with Brodito or whatever, I guess if they're using Bandito more as a single now, maybe they're going to break Brody King free. And remember, he was a part of what'd they call him? Malachi Black and his
the House of Black.
Spooky folk. Yes.
It was Buddy. When did Buddy get hurt? Was it a year ago at the Australia show?
Yeah.
It's a
Jesus
year.
Christ, I guess. Can Ibushi donate him a leg? But anyway, again, with some gimmick and some type of proper sustained push in that company, at least he does look different. You might could do something with him, but I think he's kind of like Luchasaurus in that he's just a big, dumb, tattooed fuck that does moves because he can do them and doesn't understand why. But maybe he can break that impression I have of him.
You know what I think is a boring trope? And it's not even him, it's a lot of guys, but it's him too. The big guys that have to do some version of huff, or hoof.
They're barking.
Hoof. Yeah, just any version of that. Stop. Please stop. Please.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Brody is half his name, so it's obvious there's kind of a tribute homage going on there.
And Moondog King is part of his name, I guess, too, so.
Yeah, so he should bark and chew on a bone. But anyway, we'll see what happens, but I don't know why that unless maybe John Cruz is about to be deported. And they say, we got to finish you up. Because they finished him up all right. Did you love the recess match, Brian, when all the kids get out of class and get to go out in the grounds and play on the swings and the slide and the balance beam and the parallel bar and all that stuff they do? The 4-team, 8-man winners are number 1 contenders to the tag team title match. Let's see, there's a new wrinkle in this. We have all the children, the Hardley Boys, Hong Kong Phooey and Kevin Knight, Ricochet's Stooges, and now Fat Ass Davis and his brand new friend Jake Doyle have been added to the mix. And I know it's going to be hard for you to believe, folks, but the Hardy Boys, the Hardley Boys, they wish they still had the Hardy Boys. The Hardley Boys jump-started this one with 2 dives out of the ring. Because Darby could only do 1. So they said, 30 minutes later, we'll goddamn do 2. It was the kids playing for 15 minutes. But remember I said Davis has a really good pile driver? He's actually winning with it now. He beat they're still beating Kevin Knight every time that they miss a chance to beat the shit out of fucking Spitball and pin him in the middle of the ring. Of fucking angel in wrestling heaven loses its wings or some shit. But at least Davis is winning now with his pile driver that I guess looks so good because of his giant fucking ass. Your thoughts on his giant ass?
I have no comments on his ass. It's a pattern with the Young Bucks now. And they can't escape it at this point, obviously. But every match they do is like a fucking Dave Meltzer Slamboree match. It's the same kind of shit they were doing 10 years ago. They're doing it now to smaller reactions. And, the video went around. People highlighted it, the Do-Si-Do segment, where Speedball and they were all doing everything in sync with each other. Because that's the way any kind of thing would ever happen.
Yeah.
But you've seen that happen multiple times with Bucks matches. Their layouts are lazy at this point and boring, and there's nothing special for them to do. This match was an 8-man match with lots of high spots, and it was nothing but run-of-the-mill. And it didn't stand out, and I don't think anyone's going to remember it tomorrow, and, maybe Jet Speed and the Bucks are a natural opponent for the Rascals, who are coming in. Rascals versus Young Bucks and Hong Kong Phooey. That may be a dream match for virgins all over the place.
Well, but it wasn't over, because now that Davis and Doyle have won this thing and they're the number one contenders, FTR came out and had a big face-off with Davis and Doyle and then got in a big fight. And they're fighting and security's running out and it's going on and it's heels mad at other heels and the people were not giving a shit. It was like, and if you're having a big 4-way fight with security pulling you apart and the people are just blah, don't do any more of it. But they did a lot of it. And why do we want to see FTR with their comedy manager in a wheelchair against Davis and Doyle with their comedy manager that wears no socks?
There isn't a demand for that at all.
And that's what the remark I made earlier. The baby faces are all mad at the other baby faces and the heels are fighting the heels over the top titles. Why do they not understand that people don't give a shit about that? Because why would they?
Is there anything they could do, Jim, to fix this tag team division? I mean, they've got tag teams there, but nothing ever gets going. FTR won the belts back. What have they done since? The fans care less about FTR now than at any other point in their history in AEW. They just came out there to go after the heels, who are clearly established as the heels. There's no misconception there. So 2 heel teams went at it with each other. And Edge has to come back at some point. Christian has to come back, you would think, with Edge to get FTR, but it's not going to mean anything.
How about you? Yeah, I forgot they still haven't got even for FTR assaulting Beth Phoenix.
Did Christian get hurt too, or did it do an angle? Or I have no memory of how he left TV or where he went. He's a star. No. Do you have any idea where he is or what happened to him?
Hold on now. He was, remember Edge told him when he was packing his bag, wasn't it Christian that he told, I got to go home, I got to be with Beth or
That's
whatever?
Right.
And so Christian said, well, fuck, I'm not going to take a chance 2 against 1 of getting even with these guys that just assaulted my best friend's fucking wife. So I'll just hang out and let Tony send me a check, I guess.
They finally did the angle where Christian and Edge make up. And they had already blown it with them having a match earlier because they rushed to that and there was no feud and it didn't have any importance. At least there was a little bit of something left for them to make up. They do the big angle, Edge is gone and Christian's gone, nothing else happens again. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, but you asked me to revamp the tag
team division. Again, you have the Bucks whatever we say about them, they are a tag team. I'm just talking about actual tag teams.
Yes, but I mean, my God, if human beings could go stale like bread, you'd have to eat the Bucks in the rain. They're way past stale. And I mean, it's the same. They have to have one of their other childish teams to work with because they had the Hurt Syndicate and the company. They could have built the tag team division around them, but somehow or another, they had to lose the belt so it could go back into the Friends pool for more of the recess matches. Somehow, I can't even remember now what happened there. But the Bucks are a non-entity. FTR was the most talented in-ring team, and they had those great matches with the Briscoes and with Gin and Juice and blah, blah, blah. But they've been just rendered meaningless, and now people say Dax is whiny on the internet, and they do nothing, and they have a comedy manager, and it's over. They would have to go away for a long time somewhere. So that ain't gonna, they can have matches. I'm not saying they can never have another good match, but it ain't gonna mean anything. The Hurt Syndicate, again, is over, but now I guess Lashley's hurt. And they fucked around and made Shelton do goofy things like going competitive one-on-one with fucking Spitball. But they had something going there with the tag team division. I'm trying to think of it. While we've talked about it, I'm sorry, but they need to face somehow this indie wrestling-minded bubble of individuals needs to face the fact that any regular wrestling fan that ever looked at Mike Bailey would blow snot laughing. It's comedy. It's a comedy fucking deal. And he's not a baby face. And you could probably make him a mid-card heel if his job was to come out and be himself and let people kick the shit out of him so the fans would cheer. But otherwise, this is strictly one of these fucking indie things like Pockets and the Legless Boy or whatever. Other tag teams, the Gun Boys had potential, but one of them and both of them have been gone. Now one of them back, one of them still gone.
Gin and Juice had potential. Juice now has the least marketable look he could have, and Gin is gone. Injured. He'll be back at some point to come back with another awful promo, and then he'll get hurt again and disappear again. The Conglomeration must have some tag team in their mix.
Well, but if Mark Briscoe's in it, he needs to get out of it, and nobody else that's in it is worth a shit.
Here's a bigger question. With the Rascals coming in, and all of these groups, the Bucks have lots of friends, Callis has 20 people in his group. Do you think Tony will introduce, I don't know what you would call it, the quadruple title?
Oh, good God.
Do you think Tony Khan will introduce a tag title for 4-man teams?
Jace, edit that out.
No.
Edit that out. You're going to give him an idea, and we've got to watch it.
Do you think he's going to do it? Do you think we will see 4-man tag team championships within the next 18 months?
Now that you've said that, it ain't going to take that long. Within the next 18 months, Tony Khan may be hooked up intravenously to some kind of solution. The fucking pressure he's going to have on him. But, and you said the Rascals. Where have the Rascals been? What shows were these folks on? Did they were in NXT at one point. Did they ever make the main roster?
You may be confused because before they were the Rascals, they were called Our Gang.
Oh, okay. It's sort of like the East Side Kids and the Bowery Boys.
No, Wesley. Remember, they signed Wesley and his partner. I forget which one was his partner. Then his partner's like ex-wife or ex-girlfriend put out photos of him dressed like Hitler. No, he had a Hitler mustache doing a Sig Heil. So WWE got rid of him quick. And then some other people came in to join, I believe, the Rascals, and they've been between TNA and NXT, so they have a little bit of exposure, and that's enough for AEW fans.
Again, that's this. they made this announcement like, we've signed all 4 of the Rascals. Like, we got all 4 of the Beatles. Ringo agreed to work for 75%. They've been on NXT a while back and TNA a while back, and there's 4 of them, which is in this group of 4 is one guy 6'3" and 240 pounds, and the other ones are 5'7" and 190. Because then you might be able to make a star out of one of them. Because elsewise, if all 4 of them are the same fucking size with the prison tattoos of the 2 we know about, then you've just brought in a bunch of fucking miscellaneous munchkins.
Well, we shall see what happens with the tag team division as well as the trio. Who has the trios titles now?
I don't Ring of Honor or AEW.
No. The AEW ones, because it was the Ops with Powerhouse Hobbs. They lost them though, right?
I don't know.
Well, we have tag titles, trios titles, and we'll see what else Tony Khan.
You know what? Look that up. I tell you what. I'll bet you that you can't look up and find who the AEW 6-man trio tag team champions are.
The current champions. Wow, there's been 10 different champions. The current champions. Wow, I had no idea there were this many people who held the title. They won it on Collision on the 14th, so literally on Powerhouse Hobbs' last night, apparently. It is the team of Deadeye Velocity, Hangman Adam Page, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Kevin Knight.
Oh my God. So now they've got one of their alleged main event babyfaces teaming up with this fucking putrid piece of shit. And they've put undercard belts on Adam Page. What the? Hobbs was nice enough to do a job on his way out.
If he did,
and
the job.
They didn't.
I'm assuming.
Say again.
If he did the job, I don't know what the result of the match, how they won. Maybe they beat Shibata.
Well, but I mean, he was there. He showed up.
Yeah.
So this is what you do.
When they introduced the trios titles, a lot of us said these will be meaningless titles, and that's exactly what they've been. And it's actually, I would argue, a negative title, because we've seen too many times where a champion, whether it's Samoa Joe or whoever, comes out with a title that's a mainstream title, a world title. And they have a 6-man title with them. It just takes down the world title. It doesn't do anything to lift up the 6-man title, which is meaningless.
And remember when out of Mick Foley or Steve Austin back in the Attitude Era was put into 6-mans with his partners Kai and Ty? So they became Kai and Mick.
I don't remember this. No.
Or Austin Ty. And they won the 6-man belts. You know what? You ought to just pick, say, what 3 titles? For example, what 3 titles is Spitball Bailey going to win in AEW next week? I wonder, would they take that with our friends at Prize Picks? If you went to Prize Picks and you downloaded the app, Brian, and you said, I'm going to pick Spitball Mike Bailey, Hong Kong Phooey himself, to win 3 different fantasy titles in AEW next week. Do they cover this type of fantasy? The type of fantasy that Tony has with lotion and Kleenex late at night when he's coming up with different belts. Is that the kind of fantasy they cover?
They may cover Tony's football fantasies. I don't know if they would cover these fantasies for Tony, and considering it's Tony and there are so many belts, it's probably a hard thing to make a prediction on, but there's a lot of listeners out there who have their own picks. Football, basketball, baseball, whatever it may be. And you can, of course, take those picks and win some prizes.
Or you can take those picks and you know what you can do with them. You can head over to Prize Picks and win some prizes with your picks and ultimately make some money. You know what they've done is they've started actually giving you little tokens that you can turn in for cash and currency in various places because they don't want to be confused with counterfeiters over at Prize Picks. So they'll give you a big round thing with a guitar pick on it, and that's worth $5.
That's not exactly.
And then you go down the street.
No, you don't.
No, you go down the street to this panel van, and then you give them that, and then they give you the money and change. And then you have to take it to the cash machine at the local discount store, and you put all that change in, and it gives you dollar bills.
Again, none of this is anything that's applicable to what we're talking about here, but what we're talking about is a place to take your picks. Jim, let the listeners know what they could do at Prize Picks.
Well, the shovel is my pick. No, folks, I'm telling you, there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event season. The big event, the big game's almost here. You know what I'm talking about. That's right, the Super Bowl. And it always feels good to be right at Prize Picks. And if you're right about the Super Bowl, holy mackerel, well, you could just be living on an island in the Pacific with topless native women peeling you grapes. But it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season, so close the season out right with Prize Picks. You will get $50 instantly, pronto, when you play your first $5, when you download the Prize Picks app today and use the code JCE. $50 in lineups after you play your first $5. That's 10 times, Brian. That is a multiple of 10. That you will receive just gratis, which means you pay nothing after you play that first $5 lineup. And you know about all the features. They got the early payouts. And again, I'm telling you, you take that early payout, and then if a bus runs off the interstate into the stadium and runs over your player, and you've still got the money, just make sure you've got some type of identification in an assumed name and a place to go to lay down till the heat's off, because they will have people looking for you if you take off, boom. And nevertheless, so Brian, you know what to do. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code JCE. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And that's where you go to Prize Picks, because it's good to be right.
That's exactly right. Our friends at Prize Picks. Once again, a great deal for the listeners. Maybe Tony can go there to what you said earlier, but let's go back to AEW Dynamite.
Yes, let's go back to Tony Khan's weekly fantasy. And they had a girls 6-man tag. That was interesting. And then MJF and Bandito. And this is a world title match. And I'm thinking, okay, can MJF work his magic and get a logical match out of this guy? Or because I will explain. Bandito, and remember when I said a show or two ago, I said, what is Bandito's backstory? Who is he? Why is he Bandito? Why is it just that we're to accept that all Mexican wrestlers dress up in the flamboyant costumes and adopt a personality and go with that? Or since he can't really talk to the American audience, is there some way you could explain why he's Bandito? Did he grow up as a poor teenager and he stole food from the markets to support his family or the neighborhood kids or a school, and that's why they called him the Bandito? Or do you see what I'm saying here? Who is this fucking guy?
Well, again, I don't know how much you have to do that versus just use him well. They did some vignettes that they shot apparently here in New Jersey at some old West town, but that didn't help anything.
That's what that's what I said before, is we got clowny of him fast drawing the gunfighters at fucking Guntown Mountain instead of who is this guy? What is his life story that we want him to have? How are we going to merchandise him? How are we going to present him? As Finkel used to say, what's his motivation? So that's the problem is with Bandito as a single star of any consequence in the United States. If he can't talk, he's got to have more clearly defined story and personality and gimmick and the ways that they can sell him as a person, rather than just, oh, wow, he does all kinds of cool moves, because all the rest of them do that too. And he's also, the problem is that the best guy that I ever saw do lucha libre wrestling moves and maneuvers with American wrestlers was Hector Guerrero, because he did this shit to the guys and he did it around them, but they didn't jump in and start doing it with him. And that's what made a lot of the Hispanic guys stand out in the territories, as their style was different and they were exciting, and they were usually baby faces, unless it was like an old fucking crusty, Gordman and Goliath, blah, blah, blah. But when Bandito's got to do his shit, that's because he can't talk and, he needs to perform in the ring. But when the guys start doing his shit with him, does it look right for MJF to be doing lucha?
Does it look right?
Does it look right? Does it look like anything he would want to do if it was up to him?
Possibly not.
For the spinning head scissors,
he's good at it. He's good at it, but it doesn't look like
he can do it. Yeah. But he can do it. But does it look like shit that he would do on purpose? If he was really doing only shit that he would choose to do, would he, MJF, choose to do any of that shit?
Probably not. If he was working with Adam Page, we may not see that stuff.
Okay, so the point is, Bandito should be different and should be, as a babyface, should be exciting in the high risk moves and the flying and all that stuff. But it actually, to me, it just makes it look bleh, hokey, and also, unfortunately, brings MJF down when he's doing the choreographed shit that is clearly set up, predetermined, blah, blah, blah. MJF is so good at psychology of a match and it being a heel, and there's a clear heel and face here. But the unfortunate part is that Bandito cannot have MJF's match. He can't have a regular pro wrestling match because, as I'll tell you here in a second, his basics suck. But Bandito also relies on the American guys to do his shit with him because it's so complicated, rather than having the flashy shit that he can do to other people that they're confounded and don't have a counter and fucking surprised and flummoxed to buy. And it's all, the impression is on the baby face rather than the heel just suddenly breaks out into goddamn floor exercise gymnastics. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
So, but MJF grabs a headlock. Bandito's going to shoot him off for a shoulder tackle. Bandito not only doesn't back him up, he doesn't even fucking lean back and rear. He just shoves him one-handed, and MJF has to run from scratch to hit the ropes. That's what I'm talking about with the basics. Bandito can't have a credible, realistic-looking American-style pro wrestling match because, as with most of the lucha guys these days, most of the American guys these days, basics suck. But yet he can put all this effort into the goddamn cartwheels and round-offs and everything that go on endlessly, but that's just another... When you've already made the shit look phony, that's not like it's making it look more like the UFC. And there's a timing thing. They milk more, apparently, these days in Mexico, because at one point, Bandito does the thing where he points at the guy's head like he's going to shoot him in the head, which also in today's climate may not be a great thing to do for the kids, but he won't stop pointing. They never stop. It's like the fucking, which one was it Penta that took the glove off and the heel, or the baby face? No, the heel is supposed to stand there and wait till this fucking goof takes his glove off and does all of these gyrations again. it's a different, at least at one point, MJF put emotion in and some oomph in the middle of one of the lucha spots when he foiled something and yelled, dumbass. And at least because elsewise it's the lucha guys together just go through the thing by rote. At least MJF is able to put some facial expression and some personality into it. But then MJF starts getting heat and he starts working Bandito's left arm, which again, how much simpler can you get? But Bandito doesn't know how to sell and fight from underneath. When he fires up, he'll do 7 or 8 little things instead of 1 or 2, boom, boom. And he spoils the heat because now he's just making a little mini comeback. And at one point, he made a little mini comeback and did the Macarena and a flip, and then remembered that his left arm hurt. It's not like you can see when Ricky Steamboat sells. Yes, you can see his face because he's not wearing a mask, but you can see, or Ricky Morton, or any of the classic baby faces, you could see some distress in their body. And when they're fighting back, they're worn down, but they're trying valiantly to fight, but they're weakened. It's not like, okay, I pop up, I do these 3 things, and you stop me again. He needs this type of shit to get over on a larger level in this country. MJF would keep going back to the arm. But then at points, did you see this? When Bandito would fight back, sometimes he's selling the arm, but then he'd fight back and do some shit. He's fine. And then he'd remember to sell the arm.
Yeah.
And also, here's a programming note for them. They didn't shit the bed as bad as TNA did, but because they had the setup they had here was a ramp going to the ring and was at the same level as the apron on the side of the entranceway. So having a handheld camera stand on the apron and shoot over the top rope looks like a cool up-close shot, except it makes everybody look 3 feet tall, and all the bumps look small because the camera is looking down on them. When the camera is on the floor looking up, the backdrop looks bigger, the suplex looks bigger. Anyhow, Bandito makes comeback, hits a big dive. MJF tries to avoid the second one by going to the other side of the rail. Bandito gets on the top rope and dives off over the rail into the crowd. His arm was wonderful. But they get back in the ring. MJF hits a move on the arm. Seconds later, Bandito leaps to the top rope and hits a corkscrew cross body. I was figuring MJF was trying to remind him, hey, your arm, you should sell that. MJF is trying as best he can here. I'm not trying to downgrade the whole thing, but I think Bandito may have been best in a tag team situation where he could just do some snazzy looking stuff, because as a single, Jesus. And whoever he's working with has to assume that position for his goofy looking little, there is no reason for the German suplex to be executed like that, except that he can do that little flip. But if you have to stand there in the I'm about to be butt-fucked position and support him while he does the whole thing, it's just... So anyway, he tried that. MJF held on. Bandito got lost on a spot. MJF went for the heat seeker and hit a cutter. And Bandito hit a shooting star and got a 2 count. MJF assumed the position again, but landed on his feet. I know he can do a backflip. And That was a pretty cool spot. But again, it just because you can cut your ear off doesn't mean you're Van Gogh. I don't know why MJF is suddenly the human cannonball. What got to people more than anything was the quick roll-ups when they started doing the fucking jackknife and the small pack and the roll-up and the blah, blah, blah. That was a nice little spot that gets everybody going. And then at some point, Bandito hit a go to sleep, and MJF assumed the position again, and Bandito hit the German, and they both sold. Bandito covered and got a 2 count. And then MJF spun into the armbar and then got the label lock, and Bandito passed out. Brian, has MJF defended the title since he won it? I'm trying to think.
I don't think so. Off the top of my head, I don't think so. Because he won it at the end of the year, and
okay,
last week was the promo segment. I think this may be the first defense.
So he wins his first title defense by out wrestling the babyface and fucking not choking him out, but passing him out. How much heat did that get? Is MJF supposed to be a heel? Why wouldn't he be? Since he's goddamn, that's his whole thing. But I know that, but I'm so confused. It would seem like he was a non-entity in the fucking. Well, and he's a heel because he's about to kick the shit out of the guy. There's more to this story, as there always is. But he was a non-entity in the 4-way, where he just pretty much stole the thing, and everybody else, was featured. And so in his first defense, which is on television, not even pay-per-view, wouldn't this be the time for him? And Bandito's fairly popular and been used in this environment as a name. Go out, fucking not only beat him, but fuck him and beat him and get your fucking hand raised while you're standing up. But instead, MJF turned around and was selling in the corner after Bandito had passed out because the heel out wrestled a babyface. And then MJF got the microphone and put him over, say, you know what? They said you're going to be a world champion, and I agree. You're going to be a world champion in AEW one of these days. So it means I have to do this. And then he hits him with the belt and gets heat on him and goes to pop the hood, and Brody King comes out, spoil things. And I get, apparently they're going to have MJF interact with Brody King in some kind of way. But the point is, wouldn't it to beat this fucking guy? Is your new world champion and the guy that still gets more response from the people and reaction and has more logical matches when he has people that can follow goddamn basic principles. And he, again, by the skin of his teeth, beats this guy but beats him clean. It's all right. I'm confused.
Again, I'm not the soothsayer who can explain Tony's booking or philosophy behind these things. Obviously, they want to keep MJF busy while Kenny Omega has to go through Adam Page and Swerve until they get ready for that, because all those three, they're going to kind of have to go through each other. So while that's happening, MJF has to do something. Beat Bandito here. For AEW, maybe they consider that clean, the way it went down. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Why do you beat a guy? If they like Bandito and they want to use him as babyface, why does the heel beat him clean? And if MJF's the world champion and he's supposed to get some heat, why didn't he fuck him and beat him convincingly?
And obviously they're setting him up now, it would appear, for Brody King. I don't know if that's just going to be another one and done. They've been building up Brody King for a few weeks now. But I think the end game is still get MJF in there with Kenny Omega. And unfortunately, everyone has to do a bunch of stuff until we're ready for that, which will, probably not be until the late spring, I would imagine. Maybe summer.
Oh, Jesus Christ. But MJF versus Brody King will be worlds better than this.
Really?
I will say, of course,
worlds better. Okay.
Worlds better. Because number one, Brody King's first language is English, so they can call shit on the fly. And secondly, I would assume Brody King was trained in the United States. So he's probably, even if he overdoes it sometimes with the big man doing little man stuff, it's the same product. If MJF is calling it and featuring the greatest hits of Brody King's repertoire, and MJF leads the psychology of the thing, I will probably like it, but it would be worlds better than what this was, because MJF's having to work around a guy who has to do some of Bandito's shit, and he can't control Bandito's timing. But I'd say this MJF and Brody King will be much better.
One last question about all this. Considering what happened earlier in the night, would it have had more impact if John Cruz was somehow at ringside for MJF and Brody King got his hands on him after this, as opposed to just beat him earlier and it almost was detached from all this?
If boom, 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 Bandito is making a comeback on MJF and they've had whatever match they're going to have, and Jonathan Cruz was at ringside, and Bandito's little flippy suplex has already not worked. At one point that fucking Bandito could put MJF down in the middle of the ring with a big move and go to the top rope and let fucking Cruz jump up behind the referee's back and just shake the rope enough that fucking Bandito gets crotched or fucking whatever, and MJF somehow run up there and hit him with that fucking package goddamn DDT thing he does. It looks so devastating. Boom, 1, 2, 3. Then you fucked the babyface that could have won if he hadn't been obstructed by the manager, but that fucking heel took advantage of it. And then here comes Brody King, the partner of Bandito, goddamn pissed off and going to kick the shit out of MJF. But guess what? MJF ducks past Jonathan Cruz and shit cans him in his way as he dives through the ropes, and Brody King hits that big black hole slam on fucking Cruz and is standing in the ring telling MJF to get back in there, and MJF is outside, and maybe he could even grab Cruz's foot and pull him out and pull him down the aisleway to get out of and there you've set it up. Am I crazy?
Well, certainly, but you're also a brilliant wrestling mind.
All right. Well,
not let anyone
I'll take
that away from you. That's right. Well, that was another AEW Dynamite. Whether Tony's crazy or not, I guess more evidence next week.
But at least he's more professional at it. Tony Khan is crazy, but he's more professionally crazy than the folks over at TNA who are still doing cable access television. We've established that.
Yeah, we're going to hear from people that are going to say that we're being unfair, that we have to give TNA more of a chance. No, it's that kind of wrestling show that is a negative for wrestling. We need something serious, not something that wants to be WWE.
It's the same shit with different people and varying degrees of budget. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to come back next week with the same people and the same budget and varying degrees of dipshits right here on this show. How about that, Brian?
Sounds great, Jim. All those dipshits.
All those dipshits. Here's the story of all those dipshits that were sitting all in a row. They were all there, and we talked about them on this podcast show, The Jim Cornette Experience.
Oh, my God.
And until next week, we will see you then. Thank you, fuck you, and bye-bye, everybody.